Welcome, brave souls, to another spine-chilling episode of Whispers from the Shadows. Tonight, we delve into the heart of Detroit, a city steeped in industrial history and haunted by the echoes of its past. Join us as we explore the 25 most haunted warehouses in Detroit, where the clang of chains, the shuffle of unseen feet, and the whispers of long-gone workers still linger in the air. The old Packard plant, once a symbol of Detroit's automotive innovation and industrial might, now lies in a state of eerie decay. Its massive brick walls, once filled with the sounds of hammers, pistons, and worry engines, now echo with emptiness, yet visitors insist the noises never fully disappeared. At night, when the city's glow fades and the streets grow silent, the plant takes on an atmosphere that is almost alive, as if it remembers its past and refuses to let it go. The iron beams are rusted, the glass of countless windows shattered or missing, but the structure stands stubbornly against time, an enormous skeleton of industry haunted by memory and shadow. Explorers who step inside speak first of the smell, a mixture of rust, oil, and damp decay that clings to the air like a lingering breath from a long-forgotten era. The vast floors stretch endlessly, littered with fragments of machinery, broken tiles, and twisted metal. In some corners, graffiti colors the walls, yet these human marks seem insignificant compared to the weight of the building itself, as though the Packard plant has absorbed decades of toil, ambition, and tragedy into its very bones. Those who have ventured inside after dark recount hearing the sounds of machinery starting up without warning, a rhythmic pounding that rises and falls across the empty floors. Sometimes it is the grinding of gears, the hiss of steam, or the clatter of tools falling, but when investigated, there is nothing to be found. Cameras and audio recorders occasionally capture whispers, low murmurs that cannot be traced to any living source, echoing faintly across corridors where no one walks. Some describe these whispers as fragments of conversations, commands shouted across assembly lines, or warnings meant for those who once labored in the plant. Shadowy figures are another frequent sight. They appear at the edges of vision, slipping between rusted beams and columns. Some explorers report seeing the shape of a man in overalls moving along the floor, only to vanish when approached. Others describe glimpses of women, possibly office workers or supervisors, appearing at the top of stairwells or peering through broken windows. These figures never speak or interact directly, but the feeling of being watched, of sharing a space with unseen occupants, is overwhelmingly real. The Packard plant is not only haunted by sight and sound, but also by sudden drops in temperature and strange tactile sensations. Visitors often feel a coldness that cannot be explained, a draft that seems to move with intention rather than the natural flow of air. Occasionally, an invisible hand or pressure on a shoulder is reported, a fleeting touch that leaves the observer startled and uneasy. For some, the sensation is brief and disorienting. For others, it is a prolonged encounter, a persistent awareness that the past is not resting quietly. History seems to bleed through the plant's decaying structure. Built in the early 20th century, it was once a marvel of efficiency and industrial power, producing vehicles that symbolized the rise of Detroit as the Motor City. Workers spent long hours in grueling conditions, and accidents were not uncommon in an environment filled with moving machinery, hot metal, and endless repetition. Some believe that the spirits of those who died or suffered in the plant remain tethered to the building, repeating the rhythms of labor or reliving moments of trauma, unable to move beyond the space where their lives were consumed. Storms often intensify the haunting atmosphere. Rain falling on broken windows creates echoing patterns that resemble the roar of engines, and wind passing through the hollowed halls can sound like distant footsteps or the whistle of a train. Those inside sometimes describe a feeling of being followed, though no one is present, and shadows appear more distinct in the interplay of lightning and darkness. During these nights, audio recordings frequently capture unexplainable knocks, groans, and distant metallic clinks, reinforcing the impression that the plant itself is alive with echoes of the past. Even during daylight, the plant can be unsettling. Sunlight streaming through shattered windows casts fragmented patterns across floors and walls, creating the illusion of movement where there is none. Dust motes drift in shafts of light, yet some observers swear they see forms that move independently, like silhouettes practicing the routines of a long-gone workforce. The interplay of light and shadow is enough to unsettle the senses, leaving a visitor with the impression that they are intruding on a space that does not entirely belong to the living. The stories told by those who explore the Packard plant often include a sense of reverence and caution. Many insist that the building demands respect, that to enter lightly or with disbelief invites an intensity of experience. The consistent nature of these reports, spanning decades, gives the building a reputation that extends beyond folklore. It is a place where industrial history and the supernatural intersect. Some encounters are brief, mere glimpses or sounds that vanish the moment attention is focused. Others are prolonged, with multiple witnesses agreeing on phenomena that cannot be explained naturally. A group exploring a second-floor corridor might hear the rhythmic pounding of machinery, only to find the floors empty. A solitary visitor in a stairwell may feel an unseen presence descend alongside them. The Packard plant, in all its crumbling glory, seems to play with perception, reminding each person that the past is never truly gone. Despite the decay, the plant's aura of history and hauntings draws a steady stream of urban explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. They come seeking the thrill of the unknown, the chance to witness phenomena that defy explanation. Some leave with photographs, recordings, or sketches of shadowy forms. Others leave with nothing but memory and an indelible sense of having been in the presence of something vast, ancient, and unyielding. The building itself becomes a character in each story, an entity that holds the labor, ambition, sorrow, and perhaps anger of generations. The old Packard plant remains one of Detroit's most iconic haunted locations, a space where history refuses to remain buried and the industrial ghosts of the city continue their silent vigil. It is a place where the clang of metal, the hiss of machinery, and the shuffle of unseen footsteps remind visitors that the line between the living and the departed is thin. Here, the past is not gone, it waits in shadows, whispers, and echoes, reminding anyone who dares to enter that some places remember and some spirits never rest. The Detroit steel mill, once a roaring symbol of industrial power, now stands as a hulking testament to both human ingenuity and human fragility. In its prime, the mill forged steel that built bridges, skyscrapers, and the very framework of Detroit itself. The air vibrated with the constant pounding of hammers, the hiss of molten metal, and the relentless roar of furnaces. Men and women labored tirelessly, their lives intertwined with the pulse of the machines, the heat of the foundries, and the rhythm of the assembly lines. Yet the very intensity that made the mill thrive also made it dangerous. Accidents were frequent, some fatal, leaving behind shadows of those who never left the factory floor. Today, long after the last furnace cooled and the final machine was silenced, the mill refuses to rest. Visitors to the abandoned steel mill often describe an oppressive sense of history that presses upon the senses. The massive structure, with its rusting beams and shattered windows, seems to hold the weight of countless stories, tragedies, and triumphs. Even during the day, sunlight filtering through broken panes casts fractured patterns across the steel floors, creating illusions of movement that vanish when approached. But it is at night, when darkness drapes over the mill and the city beyond fades into black, that the place truly awakens. The air becomes charged, and the echoes of the past seem to ripple through the empty corridors and cavernous halls. The sounds reported by visitors are particularly unsettling. Some hear the unmistakable clang of metal striking metal, the rhythmic pounding of hammers, or the hiss and groan of furnaces long extinguished. Others describe the heavy footsteps of unseen workers, their boots echoing across the steel catwalks, or the creak of machinery that should no longer operate. These sounds are not random. They follow patterns, mimicking the daily routines of a bustling mill. Explorers have captured recordings of strange metallic noises and distant murmurs that cannot be attributed to wind or settling structures. At times, these sounds overlap with whispers, fragments of conversations, or shouted commands, as if the mill's workforce continues its labor from beyond the grave. Shadowy figures are another frequent phenomenon. Some witnesses report glimpsing men in soot-streaked overalls moving between rusted beams or walking along elevated catwalks, only to vanish when approached. Others see fleeting glimpses of figures near the furnaces or along the former loading docks, their forms indistinct but undeniably human. Many who have ventured inside speak of a palpable presence, a sense of being watched by entities that understand the mill intimately. Their vigilance a lingering echo of the accidents, struggles, and triumphs that defined this place. The Detroit steel mill is also a place of sudden chills and inexplicable sensations. Visitors often report a drop in temperature in certain sections, as though the heat and energy of the mill's past life have been inverted into something cold and spectral. Occasionally, an unseen force brushes against the skin, or the pressure of an invisible hand is felt on a shoulder. These sensations are brief yet vivid, leaving a lasting impression of presence. Some believe these manifestations are the spirits of workers who died tragically, bound to the very machinery they once operated, ensuring that their stories remain remembered. The structure itself seems to amplify the supernatural. Rusted catwalks, towering steel beams, and vast empty furnaces create a maze of acoustics that can make ordinary swind. Creaking metal, settling foundations seem like purposeful communication. During storms, the mill takes on an almost sentient quality. Rain slaps against corrugated steel and broken windows, mimicking the rhythm of a busy factory. Thunder can be mistaken for the roar of furnaces, and gusts of wind passing through open doorways produce echoes that sound like footsteps or distant voices. Those inside often describe a heightened awareness, an impression that the mill is alive, observing, and waiting. Some of the most compelling reports come from those who explore the mill for extended periods. Multiple visitors have independently described similar phenomena. Machinery noises in empty rooms, the presence of figures in familiar locations, and the sensation of being guided along certain pathways. In one account, a group exploring the catwalks on the second floor heard the unmistakable hum of molten metal. Though the furnaces had been cold for decades, moments later, shadows passed beneath them, forming human shapes that vanished when light was shone directly on them. The consistency of such experiences lends a weight to the idea that the Detroit steel mill is a locus of residual energy, preserving the presence of those who once labored within its walls. The mill's history adds a tangible layer to the haunting. It was a place of immense human effort, but also of danger and suffering. Injuries and deaths were common, and the emotional weight of those who toiled under relentless conditions may have left a spiritual imprint. Some visitors claim that the spirits are not malevolent, but are instead observers or guardians, silently enacting the routines of a workforce that can never rest. Others speak of fleeting interactions, a whispered warning, a sensation of being led to a particular area, or even the distant echo of laughter or argument. These glimpses suggest a continuity of presence, as if the mill's essence is inseparable from the people who defined it. Even in daylight, the mill can be disorienting. The sprawling, rusted complex is easy to get lost in, with corridors, catwalks, and empty rooms stretching into the shadows. The interplay of sunlight and shadow can create illusions of movement, making it difficult to distinguish between reality and apparition. Dust motes float in beams of light, yet some visitors swear they see forms drifting independently of the air, figures that move with intention rather than physics. The effect is subtle, yet unnerving, a reminder that the Detroit steel mill is a space where the line between the living and the dead is porous. Despite the decay and danger, the mill continues to attract explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Photographers seek ghostly images, while investigators record sounds and document sightings. Many leave with nothing tangible, only the memory of having been in a place that seems aware of their presence. Others depart with recordings of unexplainable noises, photographs of shadowy shapes, or the eerie sensation of being observed long after they have left. The mill itself becomes a storyteller, narrating the lives, labor, and tragedies of those who built the city from steel and sweat. The Detroit Steel Mill remains one of the city's most compelling haunted locations. Its walls remember the clang of hammers, the hiss of molten metal, and the voices of countless workers. Its shadows hold figures who continue their labor, walking the same catwalks, monitoring the same machines, and ensuring that the past is never forgotten. For those who enter its gates, the experience is more than exploration. It is an encounter with history made manifest. A haunting reminder that some places remember and some spirits never rest. The Michigan Central Depot, once the bustling heart of Detroit's rail system, now stands as a silent sentinel of a bygone era. Its grandiose architecture, with soaring arches and vast waiting rooms, was designed to impress travelers and facilitate the movement of goods and people. Beneath the polished floors and ornate ceilings, however, the depot also contained numerous warehouses, once filled with crates, barrels, and shipments essential to the city's commerce. Today, those warehouses stand empty, their contents long removed, but the echoes of the past linger as if time itself refuses to move forward within these walls. Visitors entering the depot immediately notice the contrast between its grandeur and its decay. The marble floors are cracked, the once polished woodwork now splintered, and broken windows allow the chill of the outside air to seep in. Dust blankets every surface, but despite the years of neglect, the building feels alive in a way that is difficult to explain. Many who walk through the cavernous halls report an uncanny sensation that they are being watched, that the presence of countless travelers, workers, and children who once populated the depot remains tethered to the space. The sounds within the Michigan Central Depot are perhaps the most striking evidence of its lingering life. On quiet nights, explorers have reported the rhythmic clatter of train wheels on tracks, distant whistles echoing as though a locomotive is approaching, even though no train has rolled through in decades. Some have heard the hiss of steam, the thrum of engines, and the distant murmur of conductors calling instructions. These noises are not faint or fleeting. They reverberate through the halls with a clarity that sends chills down the spine. Audio recordings occasionally capture these sounds as well, though playback often reveals distortions that seem almost deliberate, as if the depot itself is shaping the echoes of history for those who listen. The depot's warehouses, once lined with crates and pallets, are particularly eerie. Their long, narrow corridors amplify even the smallest sound, and footsteps seem to multiply in the empty spaces. Visitors sometimes hear the shuffle of boots or the creak of rolling carts, moving through corridors where nothing exists to produce such noises. Some have described the sensation of unseen hands brushing past them, or of cold drafts that move against the natural flow of air, directed as if by unseen workers continuing tasks from decades past. Children's laughter is another frequent report. Many who explore the depot describe hearing the faint giggles and footsteps of young ones at play, echoing through forgotten waiting rooms and across abandoned platforms. Some claim the laughter is accompanied by the soft patter of small feet running between columns or across the cold stone floors. Others have seen fleeting glimpses of tiny figures, often near the edges of vision, disappearing when directly observed. These spirits, perhaps tied to memories of family travels or children accompanying parents to and from trains, leave a poignant reminder that life once thrived in these abandoned halls. The Michigan Central Depot also manifests strange visual phenomena. Shadows move in ways that defy logic, shifting along walls, columns, and stairwells without any apparent source. Sometimes, the shapes of travelers, conductors, or laborers appear at the far end of a hall or on elevated platforms, only to dissolve when approached. Light filtering through broken windows casts fractured patterns on the floors, creating illusions of movement that some insist are not entirely illusions. Visitors often feel a presence guiding them along specific paths, leading them through the depot as if retracing routes traveled by people long gone. Storms and seasonal changes intensify the haunting sensations. Rain tapping on broken glass can sound like the rhythmic clatter of train wheels, or the tapping of luggage being carried along platforms. Wind whistling through the hollowed warehouses mimics the calls of conductors or the rumble of departing locomotives. On stormy nights, explorers often report that the building feels alive, responding to the storm with sounds, drafts, and movements that suggest deliberate intent rather than random decay. Shadows grow sharper, whispers become clearer, and the laughter of unseen children seems to echo across vast distances. History imbues the depot with a unique weight. Constructed during the height of Detroit's industrial boom, the depot witnessed the comings and goings of countless individuals, each with their own stories, triumphs, and tragedies. Workers toiled long hours loading and unloading goods. Conductors navigated schedules with precision, and travelers passed through in hopes of new opportunities. Accidents, misconnections, and farewells occurred daily, leaving behind emotional imprints that some believe have become spiritual residue. The building, with its combination of grandeur and decay, seems to hold these memories like a living archive, replaying fragments of the past for those who enter. Even during the day, the depot evokes a sense of disorientation. Sunlight streaming through high windows creates shifting patterns across floors and staircases, while the massive size of the halls makes sound travel in unexpected ways. Footsteps echo unnaturally, shadows appear in corners where no light should reach, and distant noises can appear frighteningly close. Many visitors leave with the impression that the building exists on multiple temporal layers simultaneously, where echoes of the past coexist with the present, blurring the boundaries between reality and memory. The Michigan Central Depot continues to attract historians, urban explorers, and paranormal investigators. Some seek to document the lingering sounds and apparitions, while others come for the thrill of walking through a place where the past is tangible and ever-present. Many leave with recordings of unexplained noises, photographs of shadowy figures, or the haunting memory of being followed by unseen presences. Regardless of what they capture, all agree on one thing: the depot is alive in its own way. A repository of history, memory, and lingering spirits that refuse to be forgotten. The Michigan Central Depot remains one of Detroit's most compelling haunted locations. Its warehouses echo with the clatter of carts, the shuffle of unseen feet, and the laughter of children long gone. The massive halls, platforms, and waiting rooms are imbued with memories of countless lives intersecting in fleeting moments, now replayed for those who dare to enter. Here, time does not merely pass, folds back on itself, allowing glimpses of the past to coexist with the present. For visitors who step through its doors, the experience is not just exploration. It is a confrontation with history, memory, and the unseen, a reminder that some places never truly sleep, and some spirits linger long after the world has moved on. The Detroit Arsenal, once a vital hub of wartime production, now stands in quiet, haunting silence. During its peak, the arsenal was a whirlwind of activity, the clatter of rifles being assembled, the metallic hiss of shells being forged, and the precise commands of officers echoing through the vast halls. Every inch of the complex was alive with purpose, each worker and soldier moving in unison toward a common goal. Yet, beneath the efficient rhythm of production lay danger and sacrifice. Accidents were common, and some lives were claimed by the very machinery designed to defend a nation. Today, long after the guns have fallen silent, the arsenal remains a colossal testament to both human ingenuity and the lingering presence of those who gave everything in its service. Visitors to the Detroit Arsenal often remark on the immediate sense of unease upon entering. The sprawling brick and steel structure seems to hum with latent energy, a vibration felt in the chest rather than heard. Even during daylight hours, the atmosphere carries weight. The empty corridors feel like the halls of a forgotten barracks. The warehouse floors stretch endlessly, echoing with phantom footsteps, and the air itself seems thick with stories left untold. Many who have walked these halls describe a profound sense that they are being watched, though no eyes meet theirs. The presence of the past is inescapable, an invisible layer pressed over the very bones of the building. Sounds are a defining aspect of the arsenal's haunting. Those brave enough to explore after dark report hearing the unmistakable rhythm of marching boots, the sharp click of rifles being handled, and the distant thud of artillery fire. These noises often appear in patterns, rising and falling, as if a unit of soldiers is moving through the complex. Some claim to hear the cadence of orders being shouted, the sharp bark of a sergeant's voice, or the hurried murmur of recruits following commands. Audio recordings occasionally capture these sounds in chilling detail: footsteps crossing empty floors, metal striking metal, and the low, reverberating hum of equipment that no longer functions. The spirits that linger within the arsenal are often described as disciplined and purposeful. Shadowy figures are seen moving with precision, appearing at the edges of vision or disappearing around corners. Some visitors report glimpsing soldiers in uniform, rifles slung over their shoulders, patrolling corridors as though the building itself is still under military command. Others describe the brief appearance of engineers or workers, bending over benches or inspecting machinery, only to vanish when approached. These entities do not seem malevolent, but rather bound to the place, continuing their duties long after death has claimed them. The architecture of the arsenal amplifies the sense of lingering life. Vaulted ceilings, long corridors, and enormous open spaces create acoustics that make every sound seem alive. The metallic clang of a loose pipe, the echo of wind through broken windows, or the distant creak of rusting steel can easily be mistaken for deliberate movement. Storms heighten the effect, as rain pounding against a roof and gusts of wind whistling through doors and vents create an orchestral backdrop of phantom activity. On such nights, explorers frequently report that the arsenal feels more alive than ever. The spirits of soldiers and workers manifesting their presence through sound and sensation. Temperature fluctuations are another phenomenon reported by those inside. Certain rooms and corridors feel unnaturally cold, as though the chill carries with it a memory of fatigue and hardship. Visitors sometimes experience sudden drafts or the sensation of being brushed by an unseen hand. These moments are fleeting but vivid, leaving a lasting impression that something otherworldly inhabits the space. Some believe these sensations are manifestations of soldiers who never returned home, bound to the arsenal to ensure its secrets remain protected and its history preserved. The arsenal's history further deepens its spectral presence. As a center of wartime production, it witnessed enormous human effort, coordination, and occasional tragedy. Workers labored under strict supervision, handling explosive materials and complex machinery, while soldiers trained and executed drills within the complex. Injuries and fatalities, though not always recorded in official accounts, were part of daily life. Many believe that the intensity of this labor, combined with the danger inherent to the arsenal, left emotional imprints that persist to this day. The echoes of commands, the rhythm of marching, and the distant rumble of production may all be remnants of a time when the building was alive with motion and purpose. Sightings are often as vivid as the sounds. Visitors have reported glimpses of figures standing at the ends of long corridors, appearing briefly before disappearing into walls or stairwells. Some see soldiers inspecting equipment, while others claim to catch fleeting images of officers reviewing documents or supervising unseen tasks. Light filtering through broken windows casts distorted shadows, enhancing the perception of movement and presence. Dust particles, caught in shafts of sunlight, sometimes appear to form human shapes, reinforcing the idea that the arsenal is not merely abandoned, but inhabited by memories, energy, and perhaps souls who cannot leave. Despite its abandonment, the Detroit Arsenal continues to draw explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Many are drawn by the challenge of documenting its supernatural activity, while others come simply to experience the chilling atmosphere. Some leave with photographs or recordings of inexplicable events, while others depart with only a lingering sense of being observed and the weight of history pressing upon them. Across all accounts, one theme is consistent. The arsenal is not a place of simple emptiness, but a repository of human effort, tragedy, and spirit, where the past remains alive in unexpected ways. The Detroit Arsenal stands today as both a monument to wartime industry and a haunting reminder of the lives intertwined with its history. Its walls echo with the clatter of rifles, the march of unseen soldiers, and the distant rumble of artillery. Its corridors carry the laughter, murmurs, and commands of those who once worked tirelessly within its walls. For those who step across its threshold, the experience is a journey into memory, history, and the supernatural, a confrontation with a place where time has paused, but spirits have not. The arsenal guards its secrets, but it also tells its story to anyone willing to listen. A tale of labor, sacrifice, and lingering presence that refuses to be silenced. The Brush Park Warehouse, nestled in the heart of Detroit's historic Brush Park neighborhood, stands as a relic of a time when commerce and industry shaped the city's soul. Once, it thrummed with life, merchants hustling to move goods, carts rolling over cobblestone streets, and the hum of negotiations echoing through vast halls. The warehouse was not merely a storage space, it was a place of human interaction, ambition, and tireless labor, where fortunes were made and lost, deals struck, and whispers carried through shadowed corners. Today, the building is abandoned, its brick walls weathered, windows broken, and wooden floors warped and worn. Yet, despite its derelict appearance, the warehouse is far from empty. Those who venture inside report a world where the past refuses to fade, where echoes of life linger in sound, shadow, and sensation. From the moment a visitor steps onto the property, a palpable energy hangs in the air. The faint scent of aged wood, damp earth, and rusting metal permeates the space, stirring memories of decades long past. Footsteps across the cracked pavement often seem to follow visitors, though no one else is present. The enormous doors, once flung open to receive wagons and carts, now groan in the wind, as if the building itself remembers its busy days. Inside, the scale of the warehouse impresses immediately. High ceilings, supported by thick wooden beams, long corridors lined with storage rooms, and open floors that once held crates of goods destined for markets near and far. Every creak, groan, and echo becomes amplified, a chorus of memory in a place where memory refuses to rest. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is sound. Visitors often hear the unmistakable roll of carts across cobblestone streets, even when the stones themselves have long been paved over. The rhythmic clatter, the creak of wheels, and the occasional crash of a crate conjure visions of merchants hustling to complete deliveries. Some explorers report hearing the chatter of people, long gone, fragments of conversation, bargaining, laughter, and the occasional argument, all overlapping with the natural ambient noises of wind, shifting debris, or settling beams. The effect is immersive. One can almost picture the warehouse in its heyday, bustling with human activity, the past overlaying the present in vivid detail. Shadowy figures are another frequent occurrence. Visitors often glimpse shapes moving at the edges of their vision. A man pushing a cart down a corridor, a woman inspecting goods in a storage room, or a pair of figures hurrying to meet a shipment. These forms rarely linger and vanish when directly observed, but the sense of being watched or followed is undeniable. Many describe these apparitions as performing their old routines, repeating actions from life long after life has ended, trapped in the energetic residue of the warehouse itself. The figures are not threatening, but they convey a presence that is both attentive. The wooden floors, warped and rotting, are another source of haunting. Even when explorers step lightly, they sometimes hear creaks and thuds from areas they haven't touched, as though someone or something is walking alongside them. These phantom footsteps often match the cadence of human movement, careful and deliberate, following a pattern that suggests memory rather than randomness. Coupled with distant voices and the ambient sounds of a long-vanished marketplace, the auditory phenomena create an unsettling sense of immersion, where the boundary between past and present feels dangerously thin. Temperature shifts and sudden breezes contribute further to the warehouse's eerie reputation. Certain rooms or corridors can feel unreasonably cold, and unexplained drafts pass through spaces that have long since been sealed. Some visitors report the sensation of a fleeting touch, a brush against the shoulder or the back of the hand, fleeting yet tangible. For many, these experiences are accompanied by a sense of expectation or caution, as if the spirits are not merely present, but engaged with the living, silently observing the respect or disregards shown to their space. Historical context deepens the haunting. Brush Park was once one of Detroit's most prestigious neighborhoods, and the surrounding warehouses were critical nodes in the city's economic network. Merchants, laborers, and clerks all spent countless hours inside these walls, and the intensity of human activity left marks on the environment, both physically and energetically. The warehouse was witness to the joys and struggles of commerce, frantic attempts to meet deadlines, heated negotiations, moments of camaraderie, and the occasional conflict or tragedy. Some believe that the lingering presence of those intense human experiences has transformed the warehouse into a focal point for residual energy, a place where echoes of the past are stored in the very structure of the building. Even during the day, the warehouse exerts a powerful effect on perception. Light filtering through broken windows casts long shadows that seem to move independently of natural forces. Dust motes float in beams of sunlight, yet visitors swear that some formations appear humanoid, drifting purposefully through the air. The interplay of light, shadow, and echo creates an environment that heightens the senses and amplifies the feeling of a living history, where the warehouse is as much a participant as the ghosts that inhabit it. Stormy weather intensifies the haunting phenomena. Rain pounding against the roof can mimic the sound of carts or falling crates, while wind whistling through broken windows can produce faint whispers or calls. During these nights, explorers often report an intensified presence, a feeling that unseen workers and merchants are performing their routines with renewed vigor, as if acknowledging the rhythm of the storm. The building, already a repository of sound and memory, becomes almost sentient, its voice amplified by the natural elements around it. Despite its decay, the Brush Park warehouse draws historians, urban explorers, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Cameras, audio recorders, and personal observation often capture strange anomalies, from shadowy figures to phantom sounds. Yet even those who document these events often leave with the feeling that they have barely scratched the surface. The warehouse is not merely abandoned. It is inhabited by its own history, a layered space where commerce, human effort, and lingering spirits coexist in complex, sometimes unsettling harmony. The Brush Park warehouse remains one of Detroit's most compelling haunted locations. Its floors creak with phantom footsteps, corridors echo with the chatter of merchants long gone, and carts seem to roll along invisible paths. Shadows move with intention, and whispers of history hang in the air like dust motes, illuminated by slanted sunlight. For those who step inside, the experience is immersive and disorienting, a confrontation with the echoes of lives and labor long past. Here, the past does not remain silent, it speaks, moves, and watches, ensuring that the story of Brush Park's thriving heart and the spirits it sheltered is never forgotten. The Eastern Market cold storage stands as a chilling testament to Detroit's commercial history. Its brick and steel walls, once filled with the energy of commerce and labor. For over a century, Eastern Market has been the beating heart of the city's trade, a place where fresh produce, meats, and goods flowed from farm to table, sustaining the community. Yet amid the bustling stalls and open-air trading, the cold storage warehouses occupied a quieter, more hidden role. Here, crates of perishables were stored, organized, and moved by workers who understood the delicate balance between temperature, timing, and trade. Today, these cold storage units are mostly abandoned, but the echoes of their past continue to reverberate, leaving visitors with a haunting impression that the warehouse is never truly empty. Stepping inside the Eastern Market cold storage, one is immediately struck by the oppressive stillness. The air carries a chill, lingering even on warmer days, as though the building retains the cold it once generated to preserve meats and produce. Dust hangs in beams of light streaming through cracked windows, and a scent of rust, aged wood, and damp stone permeates the space. Despite the apparent abandonment, explorers often report an uncanny sensation that the rooms are alive in another way, vibrating with memory, as if the labor and lives of those who worked here have imprinted themselves on the very structure. Sound is the most pervasive element of the haunting. Visitors frequently hear the clatter of crates being rolled across concrete floors, the muffled thump of boxes being stacked or moved along unseen paths. The noises are not random. They mimic the rhythm of workers performing daily tasks, creating a phantom choreography that overlays the empty halls. Some hear the rustle of paper, the tapping of a clipboard, or the faint murmur of voices engaged in conversation, fragments of instructions, laughter, or disputes frozen in time, yet replaying endlessly within the cold, dark rooms. Audio recordings often capture these noises with unnerving clarity, though the origin remains inexplicable, and playback sometimes reveals subtle distortions that suggest something beyond natural acoustics. Shadowy figures are another commonly reported phenomenon. Many explorers describe seeing workers in old-fashioned uniforms moving through aisles or near storage racks, only to vanish when approached. Some witnesses see shapes bending to lift invisible crates or inspecting empty shelves, their presence fleeting but distinct. These figures are often described as silent observers, performing their routines as if the world outside the warehouse does not exist. Those who encounter them report a mixture of fascination and unease, sensing both the dedication and the lingering sorrow of spirits bound to their labor long after life has left them. The cold storage units themselves enhance the eerie atmosphere. Their high ceilings, narrow corridors, and stacked shelving amplify sound and shadow, turning even the smallest noise into a haunting echo. Explorers sometimes experience the sensation of unseen footsteps following them through these aisles, moving with a precision and rhythm that suggests intelligence rather than random building noises. Occasionally, cold drafts sweep through rooms with no discernible source, carrying the faintest whispers, a breath of air that brushes the skin like the touch of a phantom hand. Many believe these manifestations are the spirits of market workers, continuing to tend to the goods and duties they once held so seriously in life. History lends weight to the haunting. Eastern markets, cold storage warehouses were hubs of relentless activity, where workers managed thousands of pounds of food, often under grueling conditions. Night shifts and early mornings, accidents, and the constant pressure to maintain the quality of goods created an environment of intensity and fatigue. The emotional imprint of this labor, combined with the occasional misfortune, may have left a residual energy that persists within the building. This energy seems to replay snippets of daily life footsteps, voices, and movement as if the workers themselves are ensuring that their effort and vigilance are never forgotten. Even in daylight, the warehouse is disorienting. Sunlight filtering through broken panes casts fragmented patterns on the floors, producing shadows that shift independently of any moving object. Dust swirls in these shafts of light, forming shapes that some swear are human figures, frozen mid-motion. The combination of light, shadow, and echo creates a sense that the building is inhabited by memories and presences, and visitors often find themselves pausing, listening, and feeling watched, even when the rooms appear completely empty. Storms intensify the haunting. Rain tapping against the metal roof and broken windows can mimic the sounds of workers moving crates, while gusts of wind whistling through doors and vents produce distant echoes that resemble hushed conversation. During these nights, explorers often report that the warehouse feels alive, the presence of unseen workers amplified, their actions more distinct and purposeful. The building, already steeped in history, seems almost sentient, responding to natural phenomena as if acknowledging the passage of time while maintaining its own timeless rhythm. Many who explore the Eastern Market cold storage leave with recordings, photographs, or sketches of unexplainable activity. Yet the most enduring impression is often emotional. Visitors speak of a weight in the air, a sense that the warehouse remembers every footstep, every movement, every whispered command from decades past. The building holds on to these memories, replaying them for anyone willing to observe, listen, and acknowledge the lives of those who once labored within its walls. The Eastern Market cold storage is more than an abandoned building. It is a living archive of labor, diligence, and human presence. Its halls echo with phantom footsteps, rustling paper, and the soft murmur of voices from a bygone era. Shadowy figures drift between storage racks, unseen hands move crates, and the chill in the air carries the unmistakable sense of history alive. For those who enter, the warehouse is a portal to the past, a place where time is layered, and the spirits of workers refuse to leave, ensuring that the story of Detroit's bustling market heart remains alive and ever present. The Detroit Dry Dock Company, once a cornerstone of the city's maritime industry, now stands as a haunting relic along the riverfront. In its prime, the dry dock thrived with the clamor of human labor and the relentless rhythm of ships being repaired and constructed. Massive holes rested in the docks, their steel frames groaning under the hands of skilled shipwrights. While cranes swung overhead, moving supplies with precision, the air was thick with the scent of tar, oil, and salt water, and the sound of hammers, engines, and shouted commands filled every corner. Today, decades after the last vessel left the slipways, the docks are largely abandoned, yet the echoes of the past refuse to fade, leaving a haunting impression on anyone who dares to explore. From the moment one approaches the Detroit Dry Dock Company, the sense of history is immediate. Rusted gates, cracked concrete, and weathered timbers speak of neglect. Yet the site exudes an eerie vitality, as if the energy of past labor lingers in the air. Even in broad daylight, the sprawling docks feel alive. The water laps at the edges with a rhythm that seems to mimic the movement of ships being guided in and out of the slips, while the creaking of old wood and metal conveys a sense of presence, as though unseen hands still adjust lines and pulleys. Those who walk the waterfront often report an overwhelming sensation of being observed, as if the ghosts of shipwrights, laborers, and captains still patrol the docks, watching over their unfinished work. Sound is perhaps the most compelling feature of the haunt. Visitors frequently report hearing the deep, resonant blast of ship horns echoing across the river, though no vessel approaches. The splash of water against hulls is often audible, accompanied by the rhythmic pounding of hammers and the shouts of dock workers, carried with surprising clarity through the empty, wind-swept spaces. Some claim to hear the hiss of steam and the groan of engines, mechanical noises that have not sounded in decades. Audio recordings sometimes capture these phenomena in ways that seem almost deliberate. Footsteps along empty gangways, the distant scrape of metal, and fragmented conversations repeating in irregular patterns, as if the dry dock itself is replaying its history for anyone willing to listen. Shadowy figures are another common experience. Many who explore the docks at dawn or dusk report glimpsing silhouettes moving across the water or along the piers, often disappearing when approached. Some witnesses describe seeing workers bending over unseen tasks, hauling invisible crates, or inspecting the hull of a phantom ship. Others speak of captains standing at the edge of the dock, surveying vessels that no longer exist. These apparitions are often indistinct, but their movements are deliberate, suggesting a persistence of routine long after the world has moved on. Those who observe them describe a strange mixture of awe and unease, a sense of witnessing life frozen in motion, yet continuing beyond the grasp of time. The architecture and layout of the dry dock amplify the supernatural atmosphere. Massive beams, weathered walkways, and towering cranes create complex acoustics, turning the slightest noise into something ominously significant. The echo of a single footstep can resonate for yards, and the sway of a rusting chain can mimic the motion of hoisted cargo. During storms, the building's presence intensifies, rain drumming on metal surfaces, wind whistling through open gangways, and the churning of river water conspire to produce an aural illusion of bustling activity, as if the docks are alive once again, replaying their glory days for the living. Temperature shifts and sudden drafts add to the chilling experience. Certain sections of the docks can feel unnaturally cold, a bite of wind carrying the impression of Bodhi's past. Visitors sometimes report the sensation of being brushed by unseen hands or the fleeting pressure of a presence at their side. These sensations are brief but vivid, reinforcing the perception that the dry dock is more than a ruin. It is a repository for the memories and labor of those who once devoted their lives to it. Many believe these manifestations are the spirits of shipbuilders and dock workers who died or aged away while the docks still hummed with activity. bound to the place by dedication, routine, or unfinished work. History contributes to the potency of the haunting. The Detroit Dry Dock Company was a site of immense human effort, ingenuity, and occasional tragedy. Workers endured long hours under harsh conditions, often in the shadow of massive ships that could crush or claim them if mismanaged. Accidents, injuries, and fatalities were part of daily life, leaving an emotional imprint that seems to persist. Beyond the workers, the docks were scenes of anticipation and farewell. As families waved to departing vessels or greeted returning ships, this layering of life, labor, and emotional intensity has created an energy that persists, replaying itself for anyone who enters the abandoned site. Even in daylight, the docks are disorienting. Shadows shift with the sun, beams of light catch floating dust, and the vast open spaces make sound travel in strange ways. Movement at the periphery of vision is common, and objects appear to shift subtly when unobserved. Many explorers report that their attention is drawn down certain corridors or along particular gangways, as if guided by an unseen hand, retracing the steps of workers long gone. The sense of being watched, of walking among echoes of the past, is pervasive and difficult to shake. Despite decay and danger, the Detroit Dry Dock Company attracts urban explorers, historians, and paranormal investigators. Cameras, audio recorders, and personal observation often yield unexplained phenomena. Shadowy figures, ghostly footsteps, and the resonance of machinery that no longer functions. Yet even those who fail to capture physical evidence leave with a profound impression that the docks are alive in memory, in sound, and in presence, a place where the past refuses to be forgotten. The Detroit Dry Dock Company remains one of the most evocative haunted locations in Detroit. Its docks echo with phantom hammers, ship horns, and footsteps. Its shadowed piers hold workers and captains frozen in routines that transcend death. For those who enter, the experience is immersive, unsettling, and unforgettable. Here, the river laps against unseen holes. The wind carries whispers of labor and loss, and the spirits of those who built, maintained, and worked the docks linger, ensuring that the story of Detroit's maritime legacy is never silenced. The Fordson Motor Company warehouse, once a bustling hub of Detroit's automotive industry, now stands silent, a relic of a time when engines roared and innovation thrived. During its peak, the warehouse was alive with movement, forklifts gliding across concrete floors, tools clattering as workers assembled parts, and the steady hum of machinery filling the expansive space. Engines were tested, components inspected, and countless hands worked tirelessly to meet the demands of a city and a nation driven by motorized progress. Today, the building is abandoned, its windows shattered, steel beams rusting, and floors strewn with remnants of a once precise order. Yet, despite the decades of neglect, the warehouse is far from empty. Those who enter often report a palpable sense of life lingering among the walls, as if the spirits of laborers past continue their work in secrecy and silence. From the first step inside, the atmosphere strikes visitors. The air is thick with a mix of dust, oil, and the faint, lingering scent of motor fuel. A subtle reminder of the warehouse's industrious past. Sunlight filters through jagged window panes, casting fractured beams across the concrete floors, which seem to echo every footstep with a hollow resonance. Even in the dead of day, explorers often feel watched, as if unseen eyes trace their movements through the cavernous halls. The building hums not with electricity, but with memory. Every corner, every shadowed alcove, seems imbued with the energy of a workforce dedicated to precision, speed, and innovation. Sound is perhaps the most pervasive and unnerving aspect of the haunting. Visitors frequently hear the unmistakable rev of engines, the grinding whir of machinery, and the rhythmic pounding of hammers against metal, as though assembly lines are operating just beyond the limits of perception. Tools clink and roll across floors, yet when investigators inspect the source, no physical object can be found. Some claim to hear workers muttering instructions, checking specifications, or calling out warnings, voices steeped in urgency, repeating routines from decades past. These auditory phenomena are often accompanied by inexplicable vibrations, the subtle hum of machinery that defies modern explanation, leaving even the most skeptical observers unsettled. Shadowy figures appear frequently, often in peripheral vision. Workers bending over unseen engines, mechanics carrying invisible tools, and supervisors inspecting phantom projects are commonly reported. These figures rarely linger long enough to be approached, and when observed directly, they vanish without a trace. Witnesses describe them as performing tasks with meticulous attention to detail, moving as if the building itself requires their diligence. Some believe these are the spirits of employees who dedicated their lives to the warehouse, bound by a sense of duty to continue tasks left unfinished, perpetually maintaining the heartbeat of the Fordson Motor Company even in death. The warehouse's vast and industrial layout amplifies these eerie experiences. Long corridors and open spaces echo every noise, from a small footstep to the distant clank of a dropped wrench, creating the illusion of multiple workers moving simultaneously. Rusted conveyor systems sway slightly, producing soft groans that mimic the movement of machinery in operation. Cold drafts sweep through gaps in the walls and broken doors, sometimes carrying with them faint mechanical whirs, as if the building itself is attempting to recreate the environment of its operational past. The combination of sound, shadow, and structural resonance makes the warehouse feel alive, even when no human presence is evident. Temperature fluctuations also contribute to the unnerving atmosphere. Certain rooms can feel unnaturally cold, the chill carrying with it the sense of invisible laborers moving through the space. Visitors occasionally report fleeting touches, a brush against the shoulder, the press of an unseen hand which vanish instantly but leave a lingering impression of interaction. These phenomena are subtle yet undeniable, giving the impression that the spirits are not malevolent but engaged in the same meticulous work they performed in life, ensuring that every machine, tool, and part is properly attended to. History reinforces the warehouse's haunting. The Fordson Motor Company played a pivotal role in Detroit's automotive boom, producing tractors, engines, and vehicles essential to both urban life and agricultural progress. Workers toiled long hours, often under strict oversight, handling complex machinery and heavy materials. Accidents, exhaustion, and the relentless pace of production were constant realities. Many believe that the intensity of labor, coupled with the dedication and occasional misfortune, left a residual energy that continues to resonate within the building's walls. The auditory and visual hauntings may be the echoes of this labor, a reminder of both the human effort and the spirit bound to the work. Even in daylight, the warehouse exerts a powerful effect on perception. Sunlight, through broken panes, casts moving patterns on floors and walls, creating shadows that seem to flicker independently of any physical presence. Dust swirls in shafts of light, sometimes forming shapes that resemble human figures at work. The combination of these visual cues with the sounds of phantom machinery heightens the feeling of immersion, making visitors acutely aware of the past's persistence. Many report leaving with a sense of walking among ghosts, their presence both comforting and unnerving. A reminder that human endeavor leaves a lasting imprint on both place and spirit. Storms heighten the haunting phenomena. Rain hammering on metal roofs produces rhythmic beats reminiscent of machinery, while wind whistles through broken windows, producing subtle echoes of conversations or engine whirs. On stormy nights, the building seems to awaken, the energy of past workers amplified by natural forces, replaying decades of labor in a surreal and immersive display. Explorers often describe an overwhelming feeling of presence, a sense that they are witnesses to a working warehouse trapped outside of time. The Fordson Motor Company warehouse remains one of Detroit's most compelling, haunted industrial sites. Its floors echo with phantom footsteps, tools clatter invisibly, and machinery hums with life long after its closure. Shadowy figures move through the halls, continuing their meticulous work, and the air is thick with the legacy of labor and dedication. For those who enter, the experience is immersive and unforgettable, a confrontation with the past that blurs the line between memory, history, and the supernatural. The spirits of Fordson's workers remain, ensuring that the story of innovation, toil, and human presence endures within the empty steel and brick walls of the warehouse. The Detroit copper and brass rolling mills once stood as a powerful symbol of Detroit's industrial might, a sprawling complex of brick, steel, and ironware. Molten metal flowed like lifeblood through the veins of the city. Inside, the air was thick with heat, smoke, and the metallic scent of molten copper and brass being shaped into sheets and rods. Workers labored tirelessly along assembly lines, their bodies moving in a synchronized rhythm, hammers and machinery clanging in precise cadence. Steam hissed from pipes, furnaces roared, and the relentless pounding of metal against metal echoed across the cavernous halls. The rolling mills were more than a factory. They were a testament to human ingenuity, endurance, and the relentless drive of industrial progress. Today, the complex is largely abandoned, its furnaces cold, its floors covered in dust and debris. Yet those who explore the area insist that the past refuses to rest, and the echoes of labor still linger in the air. From the moment one approaches the Detroit copper and brass rolling mills, a sense of history and unease settles in. Rusted gates, crumbling brick walls, and twisted steel beams give the first impression of decay, but there is an underlying vitality that defies abandonment. The sound of distant clanging, the hiss of steam from broken pipes, and the occasional creak of aged flooring suggest that the building remembers the work once done within its walls. Visitors often report feeling watched, a subtle awareness of presence in hallways or open assembly areas, as though unseen eyes are tracing each movement. The structure itself seems alive, a repository of memories, energy, and unresolved labor. Auditory phenomena are the most commonly reported experiences in the complex. Explorers frequently hear the rhythmic pounding of metal on metal, the grinding of machinery, and the whistling hiss of steam that seems to escape from nowhere. Footsteps echo along the catwalks and corridors, sometimes accompanying the clatter of tools being handled. Even when investigators check for tangible sources, the sounds continue, defying logical explanation. Recordings often capture these noises with startling clarity. The repetitive clang of hammers, the squeal of rolling wheels, and the murmur of workers' voices issuing instructions or warnings. Some claim that these echoes follow patterns, repeating work routines from decades past, as if the building itself is replaying the rhythm of its operational life. These figures often appear at the periphery of vision, vanishing when directly confronted. Some describe seeing men adjusting imaginary levers, bending over phantom conveyor belts, or moving crates of copper and brass across the floors. Others glimpse supervisors walking purposefully through corridors, clipboard in hand, checking the work of unseen employees. These spirits, though intangible, exude the focus and discipline of those who spent their lives in the mill, suggesting that their presence is tied, not to malice, but to routine and dedication. The architecture of the Detroit copper and brass rolling mills amplifies the haunting atmosphere. High ceilings, long corridors, and open floors create an echo chamber for both real and phantom noises. Every sound is magnified, and the interplay of light and shadow from broken windows and rusted steel beams distorts perception, making it difficult to distinguish between natural phenomena and spectral activity. Cold drafts move unpredictably through the structure, carrying faint whispers or the impression of a passing figure. During storms, the complex becomes almost alive. The pounding of rain on metal roofs, gusts of wind whistling through gaps, and the rumble of the river nearby create an orchestral backdrop for ghostly activity, as if the mill is replaying its operational peak in an otherworldly symphony. Temperature shifts are frequently reported within the mill. Some rooms feel unnaturally cold, a stark contrast to areas warmed by residual sun or trapped air. Visitors sometimes experience sudden breezes or the sensation of being brushed by invisible hands. These brief but tangible experiences suggest the lingering presence of those who spent long hours shaping metal, their energy bound to the tasks they performed with care, precision, and sometimes great personal risk. Many believe these are the spirits of workers who perished in industrial accidents or who simply cannot leave behind the rhythm of a life spent in labor. History adds depth to the haunting. The Detroit copper and brass rolling mills were vital to both local and national industry, producing materials essential for machinery, construction, and wartime efforts. Workers endured long hours in difficult conditions, operating heavy machinery and handling molten metal, where a single misstep could be fatal. The intensity of labor, combined with moments of triumph and tragedy, left an imprint that persists today. The sounds, shadows, and sensations reported by visitors may be manifestations of this energy, a residual echo of lives devoted to work that shaped the city itself. Even in daylight, the complex is disorienting. Sunlight streaming through broken windows creates moving patterns on the floors and walls, shadows that sometimes seem to flicker independently of any physical object. Dust motes appear to drift purposefully in shafts of light, occasionally forming shapes reminiscent of human figures in motion. These visual cues, combined with the sounds and sensations of unseen labor, create an immersive experience in which the past and present coexist, leaving explorers with the profound impression that the mill is never truly empty. Despite its decay, the Detroit copper and brass rolling mills attract urban explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Yet even those who fail to capture tangible evidence leave with an undeniable sense that the building is alive, with memory and presence. It is a place where the energy of human labor, dedication, and sometimes tragedy lingers, replaying the routines of a bygone era for those willing to witness it. The Detroit copper and brass rolling mills remain one of the most haunting industrial sites in Detroit. Its floors echo with hammering, machinery hums in empty halls, and shadowy figures continue their meticulous work. For visitors, the experience is immersive, a journey into the heart of Detroit's industrial past, where the spirits of workers persist, ensuring that the story of innovation, toil, and human presence endures in the abandoned steel and brick of the mill. The Wayne County Cold Storage Warehouse stands as a silent sentinel along Detroit's industrial landscape, a structure that once played a vital role in the city's food distribution network. In its heyday, the warehouse thrummed with activity, workers moving crates of produce, meats, and dairy products, the hum of refrigeration units, and the constant shuffle of feet across concrete floors. Each delivery, each inspection, each careful arrangement of goods was part of a larger rhythm that kept the city fed and the warehouse running smoothly. Today, decades after it closed its doors, the building is abandoned, yet those who enter report that the past refuses to remain silent. The chill of history lingers in the air, and the echoes of human labor persist in ways both audible and unseen. From the first step inside, visitors are struck by the oppressive quiet, broken only by the occasional creak of the aging structure. The air is cold, heavy with the lingering scent of refrigeration, old wood, and dust. Sunlight filters through cracked windows, illuminating long aisles of empty shelves and stacks of forgotten pallets. Despite the emptiness, explorers often report a strange sense of being observed, a subtle awareness that the warehouse is far from abandoned. The building itself seems to hold its breath, alive with the energy of those who spent years within its walls, performing work that was repetitive, precise, and essential. Sound is the most persistent and unsettling aspect of the haunting. Visitors frequently hear the clatter of crates being moved across concrete floors, the rustle of packing paper, and the distant murmur of voices, all originating from rooms that are otherwise empty. Footsteps echo through the long corridors, sometimes pacing alongside the visitor. Never directly confrontational, but always present. Some report hearing the hum of refrigeration units, long since turned off, or the mechanical groan of conveyor belts that no longer exist. Audio recordings often capture these noises, sometimes with astonishing clarity, revealing subtle conversations, whispers, or the rhythm of work being carried out by unseen hands. These sounds are not chaotic, they follow patterns, recreating the routines of workers who spent their days arranging, inspecting, and moving goods in the warehouse's endless rows. Shadowy figures are another common phenomenon. Many explorers glimpse forms moving at the edges of their vision, workers bending over invisible crates, carrying unseen objects, or walking along aisles as if checking inventory. These figures often vanish when observed directly, leaving only the impression of motion and intent. Some witnesses report the silhouettes of supervisors moving with measured steps, clipboard in hand, inspecting the phantom laborers at work. These spirits appear to be engaged in the routines they performed during life, bound to the warehouse, not by malice, but by the sense of purpose, discipline, and repetition that defined their existence. The architecture of the Wayne County Cold Storage Warehouse enhances the haunting. High ceilings, long corridors, and densely stacked shelving create a natural echo chamber, amplifying every sound and distorting perception. The interplay of light and shadow produces shapes that seem to move independently of any observer, creating a visual experience that mirrors the auditory phenomena. Cold drafts snake through gaps in the walls and broken windows, carrying whispers and the faint impression of moving objects. During storms, the building seems to awaken. Rain tapping against metal roofs and broken glass creates a percussive background for phantom footsteps, rolling crates, and distant murmurs, making the warehouse feel alive with the activity of a past era. Temperature fluctuations add another layer of eeriness. Certain areas feel unreasonably cold, and unexplained breezes occasionally brush against visitors' skin, as if invisible hands are guiding or inspecting them. These sensations are subtle but undeniable, enhancing the impression that the spirits of workers are present, engaged in the same careful routines they performed in life. Many believe these manifestations are the residual energy of laborers who dedicated decades to maintaining the warehouse, their spirits remaining to ensure the orderly operation of a place that was once essential to the city. History plays a crucial role in understanding the haunting. The Wayne County Cold Storage Warehouse was a cornerstone of Detroit's food distribution network, responsible for preserving and transporting perishable goods to stores and markets across the city. Workers endured long hours in cold, demanding conditions, handling heavy loads and operating machinery that required constant attention. Accidents were not uncommon, and the intensity of labor left an imprint on both the building and the people who worked there. This history of effort, perseverance, and occasional misfortune is often cited by those who explore the warehouse as the source of the lingering presence, a form of memory that refuses to fade. Even during daylight, the warehouse can be disorienting. Sunlight streaming through broken panes casts long, shifting shadows across floors and shelves. Dust motes drift in the air, sometimes forming patterns reminiscent of human figures moving with purpose. The combination of these visual cues with the auditory phenomena creates an immersive experience in which the past overlays the present, making it difficult to distinguish between what is real and what is residual energy. Visitors frequently report a sense of stepping into a living memory, a space where time folds and the work of decades past continues to resonate. Despite its decay, the Wayne County Cold Storage Warehouse attracts urban explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio devices often capture unexplained phenomena, ghostly figures, footsteps that echo without source, and the persistent sounds of labor. Yet even those who leave without tangible evidence often describe an overwhelming impression of life, diligence, and watchfulness. The warehouse is not merely a building. It is a repository for the human effort that once sustained it, a place where labor and memory converge in spectral form. The Wayne County Cold Storage Warehouse remains one of Detroit's most compelling haunted industrial sites. Its aisles echo with the clatter of crates, the rustle of paper, and the hum of phantom machinery. Shadowy figures perform routines frozen in time. Footsteps follow visitors through empty corridors, and the air carries the weight of decades of work. For those who step inside, the experience is immersive, a haunting encounter with the persistence of human labor and memory. The spirits of workers remain vigilant and present, ensuring that the story of Detroit's food distribution and the lives dedicated to it endure within the cold, silent walls of the warehouse. The Detroit Edison Power Plant stands as a monumental relic of Detroit's industrial past, a massive structure once responsible for keeping the city's lights burning and machinery humming. In its prime, the plant thrummed with energy, both mechanical and human. Turbines spun with relentless precision, Boilers hissed as they transformed water into the steam that drove massive generators. And workers moved with purpose along catwalks and across the cavernous floors. The air was heavy with heat, the smell of oil, metal, and electricity blending into a metallic temps that clung to clothing and skin. Commands shouted across the floor, the clanging of tools, and the constant vibration of machinery created a symphony of industrial life. Now, decades after the last shift ended, the Detroit Edison power plant is largely abandoned. Yet those who venture inside often report that the echoes of its past refuse to be silenced. From the moment one approaches the plant, its presence is imposing. Rusted steel, cracked concrete, and weathered brick exteriors bear the weight of time, yet they do little to diminish the sense of life within. Even from the exterior, explorers often hear faint mechanical hums or the distant echo of activity, sounds that seem impossible in a building left to decay. Inside, the silence is heavy but deceptive. It carries a weight, a feeling that every corner, catwalk, and turbine room is alive with memory. Visitors often report a sensation of being watched, a subtle awareness of unseen eyes tracing their movements, as though the plant itself recognizes them as witnesses to its lingering energy. Sound dominates the haunting. Many who enter report hearing the unmistakable whir of turbines spinning at full capacity. Though no electricity flows through the rusted generators, steam hisses from broken pipes, punctuated by the clatter of machinery, footsteps, or the occasional metallic clang of a dropped tool. Voices sometimes echo across vast turbine halls, fragments of conversation between workers, shouts of warning, or the murmur of routine instructions. Audio recordings often capture these sounds in startling detail, revealing rhythmic patterns, repetitions, and overlaps as if the plant is replaying its operational history for anyone who will listen. The sounds are not chaotic. They are purposeful, suggesting a working environment frozen in time, maintained by the memory and energy of those who once labored within. Shadowy figures are frequently reported. Explorers glimpse silhouettes moving across catwalks, descending stairwells, or bending over phantom machinery. These figures often vanish when approached directly, leaving only a lingering impression of motion and intent. Some witnesses describe engineers checking gauges, operators adjusting controls, and maintenance workers moving unseen equipment. These spirits appear meticulous and focused, performing tasks with the same dedication and precision they exhibited in life. Many believe they are the workers who powered Detroit, bound to the plant by duty and the echo of their own labor. The architecture of the Detroit Edison power plant amplifies its haunting. The soaring ceilings, vast turbine rooms, and long corridors create an acoustical landscape where every sound is echoed, magnified, and distorted. Light streaming through broken windows casts long, fractured shadows, while dust motes drift in shafts of sunlight, occasionally forming shapes that resemble moving figures. The interplay of echo, light, and shadow transforms even mundane movements into eerie experiences, heightening the sense of spectral activity. Cold drafts snake unpredictably through the building, carrying whispers or the faint hum of electricity, as though the plant is breathing, alive with the persistence of its history. Temperature fluctuations contribute to the unsettling experience. Certain areas of the plant feel inexplicably cold, while others retain residual warmth, creating an unnatural contrast. Visitors sometimes feel brief touches or brushings, fleeting but distinct, like hands guiding, warning, or acknowledging their presence. These subtle sensations reinforce the impression that the spirits of workers remain, continuing their routines, checking machinery, and ensuring the plant's operation endures, even without power or human intervention. History gives weight to the hauntings. The Detroit Edison power plant was essential to the growth and function of the city, providing electricity that fueled homes, factories, and businesses. Workers faced long hours, demanding tasks, and hazardous conditions, with every shift carrying risk. Accidents were not uncommon, and the physical and emotional intensity of their labor left a tangible imprint. Many believe that this concentrated effort, dedication, and occasional tragedy have embedded themselves into the building, creating residual energy that manifests as sounds, apparitions, and sensations of presence. The plant, in this sense, is a living memory, replaying decades of work for anyone willing to observe. Even during daylight, the plant disorients visitors. Sunlight through broken panes produces moving shadows across floors, turbines, and catwalks, sometimes appearing to flicker independently of any motion. Dust particles form patterns that seem purposeful, sometimes coalescing into shapes that resemble human figures performing tasks. Combined with the auditory phenomena, these visual cues create an immersive experience, a sense that time layers within the building, blending the present with echoes of the past. Storms magnify the haunting. Rain tapping on metal roofs and broken windows produces rhythmic sounds reminiscent of operational machinery. Gusts of wind create whistles and moans through open corridors and vents, while distant thunder blends with the natural resonance of the plant, producing an eerie orchestration of phantom industrial activity. On these nights, visitors often feel the presence of multiple spirits, moving with purpose, replaying the intensity and vigilance of decades gone by. The Detroit Edison Power Plant remains one of Detroit's most compelling, haunted industrial sites. Its floors echo with turbine hums, clanging machinery, and phantom footsteps. Shadowy figures move through catwalks and halls, performing meticulous work frozen in time. For those who step inside, the experience is immersive, a journey into the industrial heart of the city, where the spirits of workers continue to maintain their duties, preserving the legacy of Detroit's electricity and human effort within the abandoned walls. The Michigan State Fairgrounds warehouse sits at the edge of Detroit's sprawling fairgrounds, a silent sentinel of a time when the area pulsed with excitement, color, and the laughter of countless visitors. In its heyday, the fairgrounds were alive with energy, vendors hawking treats, children laughing as they ran from ride to ride, the smell of popcorn and cotton candy mingling with the crisp air and the distant music of carousels, Ferris wheels, and calliope organs drifting across the grounds. The warehouse, tucked behind the main exhibition halls, served as the hub for storage and preparation, filled with crates of supplies, decorations, and carnival equipment. Though its walls were lined with boxes and pallets rather than fairgoers, it hummed with the indirect energy of the events it supported. Today, long after the last carnival lights have dimmed, the warehouse stands mostly abandoned, but visitors insist that the echoes of past festivities refuse to fade. From the moment one approaches the warehouse, there is a sense of history clinging to its weathered structure. Rusted metal beams, cracked concrete, and faded paint are the first signs of age. Yet the building seems to radiate a quiet life. Even during the day, the enormous doors and shadowed corners produce a feeling of being watched. Many explorers report sensing movement in their peripheral vision, fleeting glimpses of figures gliding past racks of empty crates, as if the warehouse itself is populated by memories rather than living bodies. There is an unmistakable energy, a lingering excitement that seems to mirror the joy and chaos of the fair's busiest days. The auditory phenomena reported here are among the most compelling. Visitors often hear the faint chatter of crowds, the distant cries of children, and the clinking of coins or the rustle of paper tickets. The music of carnival rides, faint and warped, drifts through the warehouse corridors, sometimes accompanied by the rhythmic creaking of Ferris wheels or the spinning of carousel horses. Footsteps echo across the concrete floors, sometimes in groups, sometimes pacing alone, as if fairgoers are wandering the aisles, searching for attractions long gone. These sounds are often so vivid that they seem to originate from just out of reach, teasing the senses with fragments of joy and movement from a past era. Audio recordings frequently capture these noises with surprising clarity, from laughter and conversation to the faint mechanical hum of a ride or the thump of a hammer assembling a booth. Shadowy figures are another common occurrence. Many who enter report glimpsing fairgoers wandering through the empty spaces, silhouetted against shafts of sunlight filtering through broken windows. Children are sometimes seen running between stacks of crates or peering around corners, only to vanish when approached. Adults appear as merchants or performers, walking purposefully with objects in hand, or gesturing as though explaining the details of a game or exhibit. Witnesses often describe a sense of observation, a feeling that the spirits of those who once attended or worked the fair are still engaged in their routines, enjoying the festivities even though the physical fair is long gone. The warehouse's architecture contributes to its haunted atmosphere. High ceilings, expansive open spaces, and long rows of shelving amplify every sound, turning the smallest creak into a booming echo. Broken windows create shifting patterns of light and shadow that move across the floors, giving the impression of figures darting between crates or climbing ladders. Even the wind through the gaps in the walls carries music-like tones, distant and distorted, as though the echoes of organ music or carnival tunes are replaying themselves. During storms, the experience intensifies, rain pounding against the roof, wind whistling through the open doors, and the distant rumble of thunder combine to mimic the chaotic yet joyful symphony of a fair in full swing. Temperature fluctuations enhance the unsettling effect. Some areas feel unusually cold, a stark contrast to spots warmed by residual sunlight or trapped air. Explorers occasionally report sudden touches or brushes, fleeting sensations of being jostled by an unseen presence. These experiences, subtle but persistent, reinforce the impression that the spirits of fairgoers and workers linger, replaying the routines of the past with careful attention. Many who explore the warehouse sense a mix of delight and nostalgia, as though the joyous energy of countless events has been etched into the very walls and floors, creating an environment that feels alive in memory, if not in the present. History intensifies the haunting. The Michigan State Fairgrounds was a gathering place for generations, a space where communities came together to celebrate, compete, and enjoy simple pleasures. Workers toiled to set up booths, rides, and exhibits, often for long hours under the pressure of deadlines. Families, children, and performers brought excitement and movement, filling the grounds with energy that lingered long after the crowds dispersed. Accidents, disputes, and the passage of time added layers of emotional intensity. Some believe that this concentrated mixture of joy, effort, and occasional sorrow left an imprint, resulting in the sensory echoes that modern visitors now encounter. Even in daylight, the warehouse disorients. Shafts of sunlight highlight dust motes drifting in patterns that appear intentional, sometimes resembling human figures moving among crates. Shadows stretch and twist along floors and walls, occasionally forming shapes reminiscent of carnival tents, rides, or wandering crowds. Combined with the auditory phenomena, these visual cues create a full sensory experience, a layered reality where past and present coexist. Visitors frequently report the uncanny sensation of stepping into a living memory, where the energy of the fair persists in a place that has long been emptied of its original purpose. Despite decay, the warehouse continues to attract explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras, audio recorders, and personal observation often capture unexplained phenomena, phantom footsteps, laughter, shadowy figures, and the faint music of attractions long gone. Even those who fail to collect tangible evidence often leave with a profound sense of presence, an understanding that the fairground's history is preserved in more than photographs or records it lives in the sensory memory of the warehouse itself. The Michigan State Fairgrounds Warehouse remains one of Detroit's most evocative haunted sites. Its halls echo with the chatter of invisible crowds, the music of phantom rides, and the footsteps of unseen fairgoers. Shadowy figures move between crates and along aisles, reliving routines frozen in time. For those who enter, the experience is immersive and unforgettable, a journey into the heart of a place where joy, labor, and community endure in the lingering spirits of those who once called the fairgrounds home. The Detroit Public Schools Warehouse stands as a quiet monument to the city's educational past, a place that once played a crucial role in supporting classrooms across Detroit during its operational years. The warehouse was a hub of activity. Crates of textbooks, stacks of paper, bundles of supplies, and teaching materials moved across its vast floors. Forklifts hummed, workers carried heavy boxes, and the air was filled with the chatter of employees organizing shipments for schools across the city. The building, though industrial in appearance, served as a lifeline for education, ensuring that every classroom was equipped to inspire learning. Now abandoned, the warehouse has grown silent, yet those who venture inside report that the echoes of the past refuse to be quieted, lingering like the residue of lessons never forgotten. From the moment one steps into the warehouse, the sense of history is palpable. Sunlight filters through cracked windows, illuminating dust-covered shelves and empty crates, casting long, fractured shadows across the concrete floors. The air is heavy, carrying the faint scent of paper, ink, and industrial cleaning agents, remnants of a time when students' futures were literally stacked and stored on these shelves. Visitors often report an unshakable feeling of being observed, as if invisible eyes follow their movements along the long aisles of the warehouse. There is a quiet, almost reverent energy here, as if the building itself remembers the countless hands that moved through its corridors, preparing materials for eager students across the city. Auditory phenomena are the most frequently reported aspect of the haunting. Explorers often hear the distant rustle of papers, as though stacks of worksheets and assignments are being sorted by unseen hands. The sounds of lockers closing, footsteps echoing down hallways, and the laughter of children at play sometimes drift through the empty space. Faint murmurs of teachers giving instructions, offering guidance, or quietly correcting assignments have also been reported. These sounds often appear to follow a pattern, recreating the routines of a school day long past, giving visitors the sense of walking through a memory rather than a completely empty building. Audio recordings occasionally capture these noises in startling clarity. The shuffle of papers, the creak of chairs, and even the faint echo of a school bell that no longer rings. Shadowy figures are frequently seen at the periphery of vision. Some visitors glimpse children moving between crates, bending over stacks of supplies, or peering curiously at shelves. Others report seeing adults, likely representing teachers or warehouse employees, walking purposefully along aisles, checking inventory, or carrying unseen boxes. These figures vanish when directly approached, leaving only the impression of movement and intent. Witnesses describe them as engaged in the same meticulous routines they performed in life, appearing focused, diligent, and entirely absorbed in their tasks. Many believe that these are the spirits of educators and students, bound to the warehouse by the dedication, discipline, and energy that once filled its corridors. The warehouse's architecture amplifies the haunting experience. High ceilings, long rows of shelving, and open floor space create echoes that distort perception. Every sound, footsteps, creaking doors, the movement of crates resonates, magnifying the sense of activity. Broken windows allow shifting patterns of light and shadow to play across the floors, giving the impression of figures moving in places where no one stands. Cold drafts often weave through the building, carrying faint whispers or the impression of motion. During storms, the warehouse comes alive in a different way. Rain tapping against metal roofs creates rhythmic patterns that echo like the shuffle of student feet, while wind whistles through gaps in walls and doors, mimicking the distant hum of conversation or classroom activity. Temperature fluctuations contribute to the eeriness. Certain areas of the building feel inexplicably cold, while others seem to retain residual warmth from trapped sunlight or isolated heating vents. Visitors sometimes report fleeting touches or the sensation of being lightly brushed by invisible hands. These subtle interactions reinforce the impression that the spirits of students and teachers remain, replaying the routines of daily school life, tending to the tasks they performed during life, and keeping the spirit of education alive within the building. History provides context for the haunting. The Detroit Public Schools warehouse played a critical role in ensuring that classrooms across the city were stocked with materials, especially during times of high enrollment and expansion. Workers handled countless boxes of textbooks, teaching aids, and supplies, sometimes under difficult conditions, often moving quickly to meet deadlines. The energy, focus, and occasional tension of this work left a lasting imprint on the building. Many believe that this accumulated energy, a mixture of effort, learning, and human presence continues to manifest today as the sounds, shadows, and sensations that visitors report. Even in daylight, the warehouse can be disorienting. Dust motes drift through shafts of light, sometimes forming shapes that resemble children moving between crates or teachers walking along aisles. Shadows stretch and shift unpredictably, creating visual illusions of movement where none exists. Combined with the auditory phenomena, these effects make the warehouse feel as though it exists in two times simultaneously: the present, empty and abandoned, and the past, bustling with activity, curiosity, and learning. Visitors often describe stepping into a living memory, where echoes of classrooms and school life coexist with the silence of decades of abandonment. Despite its decay, the Detroit Public Schools warehouse continues to attract urban explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio equipment frequently capture inexplicable phenomena: shadowy figures, footsteps echoing through empty halls, the shuffle of papers, and faint voices that seem to carry the cadence of a school day. Even those who leave without concrete evidence often describe an overwhelming sense of presence, as if the warehouse itself is a repository for the memory and energy of the students and educators who once depended on it. The Detroit Public Schools warehouse remains one of Detroit's most evocative haunted locations. Its floors echo with the footsteps of phantom students, the rustle of unseen papers, and the faint murmur of teachers giving instructions. Shadowy figures wander between crates and aisles, replaying routines frozen in time. For those who enter, the experience is immersive, a haunting journey into the city's educational past, where the spirits of students and educators continue to walk the halls, preserving the legacy of learning within the abandoned walls. The Detroit News printing plant stands as a looming testament to the city's journalistic history, a building that once served as the beating heart of news production in Detroit. In its prime, the plant was a hive of activity. Massive presses rolled tirelessly, stacks of paper moved in endless supply, and the air was filled with the sharp scent of ink and the rhythmic clatter of machinery. Reporters, editors, and press operators moved through the building in a carefully orchestrated dance, ensuring that the city received the latest news on politics, crime, sports, and culture. Every day, thousands of newspapers left the building, carrying stories to homes, offices, and businesses. Now, decades later, the plant is largely abandoned. Yet those who venture inside report that the energy of its past refuses to remain silent. The air hums with echoes of presses, the shuffle of papers, and the faint, tireless murmurs of journalists still at work. From the first step inside, visitors sense the weight of history. Sunlight streams through high, grimy windows, illuminating the long rows of industrial equipment, empty offices, and stacks of abandoned crates. Dust hangs in the air, drifting in the shafts of light. But despite the decay, there is a lingering vitality that cannot be ignored. Many explorers report a subtle feeling of being observed, as if the building itself is aware of their presence, watching, assessing, and perhaps even guiding them along its corridors. The space feels alive, not in a physical sense, but as a repository for memory and effort, the accumulated energy of decades of work refusing to dissipate. Sound is the most striking aspect of the haunting. Visitors often hear the unmistakable rumble of printing presses in operation, even when the machinery has long since been decommissioned. The rhythmic thud of rollers, the hum of motors, and the steady clack of paper feeding through machines echo through the cavernous halls. Rustling sounds, as if stacks of paper are being sorted or shuffled, often accompany these mechanical noises. Footsteps reverberate across the concrete floors, sometimes solitary, sometimes in clusters, giving the impression of reporters, editors, and delivery personnel moving about the plant. Faint murmurs of conversation, the low hum of typewriters, and the occasional echo of a shouted instruction further enhance the sense that the building is still in operation, even though no one is visible. Audio recordings made by explorers frequently capture these phenomena, sometimes with clarity so vivid that listeners swear they can hear the squeak of a chair, the rattle of an ink tray, or the flip of a newspaper page. Shadowy figures are often seen moving at the edges of vision. Some witnesses describe workers bending over machinery, adjusting rollers, or carrying invisible bundles of newspapers. Others report glimpsing reporters moving through office spaces, reviewing papers, or scribbling notes on unseen desks. These figures are rarely confrontational. They appear absorbed in their work, repeating routines from decades past. Many who observe them describe a sense of focus and diligence, a professional dedication frozen in time. Some explorers believe these are the spirits of journalists who cannot leave the building behind, bound to their labor and the stories they once told. The plant's architecture amplifies its haunting. Towering ceilings, long corridors, and expansive printing floors create natural echoes, magnifying even the smallest sounds into something larger than life. Light filtering through broken windows casts fractured, moving patterns across machinery, creating fleeting illusions of activity. Even the wind carries an eerie quality, howling through open vents and broken doors, sometimes resembling the hum of machinery or the faint murmur of office conversation. During storms, the auditory effects intensify. Rain pounding on metal roofs and gusts of wind combine with natural acoustics to produce an immersive symphony of phantom presswork, footsteps, and distant conversation, making it difficult to distinguish reality from memory. Temperature variations add to the unsettling atmosphere. Some areas feel inexplicably cold, while others hold pockets of lingering warmth, creating a disorienting contrast. Visitors occasionally report fleeting sensations of touch, as if invisible hands are shuffling papers, adjusting equipment, or guiding them along the aisles. These subtle encounters reinforce the impression that the spirits of workers remain, dedicated to their tasks and unwilling to let the legacy of the plant fade. The history of the Detroit News printing plant provides context for its haunting. For decades, the facility was central to the dissemination of information throughout the city. Employees worked long hours under demanding conditions, managing heavy equipment, coordinating with reporters, and ensuring the timely production of newspapers. The intensity, focus, and occasional danger of this work left a lasting imprint on the building. Many believe that this energy remains preserved within the walls, floors, and machinery, manifesting as the sounds, figures, and sensations that modern visitors experience. Even in broad daylight, the plant is disorienting. Dust motes drift in patterns that resemble human movement, while shadows twist across machinery, sometimes forming shapes reminiscent of operators and reporters moving through space. Combined with auditory phenomena, these visual cues create an immersive sense of walking through a memory, where past and present coexist in layers. Visitors often describe an uncanny feeling of stepping back in time, witnessing the dedication, focus, and energy of those who once brought the city its news. Despite decay and abandonment, the Detroit News printing plant continues to attract urban explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio devices frequently capture unexplained phenomena, shadowy figures, footsteps echoing through empty halls, the hum of phantom machinery, and the rustle of paper where none exists. Even those who leave without tangible evidence often describe a profound impression of presence, as if the plant itself remembers its workers and reporters, preserving their efforts for anyone willing to listen. The Detroit News printing plant remains one of Detroit's most evocative haunted industrial sites. Its halls echo with the hum of presses, the rustle of unseen paper, and the faint murmur of journalists at work. Shadowy figures move among machinery and office spaces, performing routines frozen in time. For those who venture inside, the experience is immersive and unforgettable, a journey into the heart of a place where news once flowed, seasoned, and where the spirits of those who told the city's stories continue to labor, preserving the legacy of Detroit journalism within the abandoned walls. The Detroit Opera House warehouse stands in quiet anonymity behind the grandeur of the main theater, a building that once served as the lifeline for performances and productions across the city. While the Opera House itself is known for its elegance, velvet curtains, and the echo of orchestral music, the warehouse tells a different story, a story of preparation, rehearsal, and the machinery behind every show. In its prime, the warehouse stored costumes, props, set pieces, and instruments, bustling with stagehands, seamstresses, and performers moving between storage racks and rehearsal spaces. Wooden crates were stacked high with painted backdrops. Trunks carried delicate wigs and period clothing, and the air carried a mixture of dust, fabric, varnish, and the faint lingering scent of stage smoke. Now, the warehouse is largely abandoned, yet those who enter often find that its history refuses to be silent. Visitors immediately sense the building's past energy. Sunlight filters through cracked windows, illuminating shelves of forgotten props and costumes draped over hooks, casting long, shifting shadows that appear almost lifelike. The air is thick with the memory of labor and artistry, carrying a subtle sense of motion. Many who step inside describe feeling watched, as if unseen eyes follow them across the aisles of racks and crates. There is a quiet intensity to the space, an almost palpable presence that suggests the warehouse remembers its former occupants, replaying fragments of their routines for anyone willing to witness. Sound is the most frequently reported phenomenon. Explorers often hear the faint strains of music drifting through the warehouse, fragments of arias or instrumental pieces echoing from corners and ceilings. The creak of wooden floors, the shuffle of feet, and the soft rustle of fabric are commonly noted, as if performers are rehearsing unseen. Occasionally, the laughter and whispers of stagehands, the measured instructions of a director, or the sighs of singers perfecting their parts can be heard, drifting through the cavernous interior. Some claim to hear the hum of a piano, the pluck of a stringed instrument, or the tapping of a baton against a music stand, all in sync with the unseen performance. Audio recordings often capture these sounds, sometimes layered with multiple, overlapping echoes that suggest several rehearsals happening simultaneously, replaying decades of theatrical history in one space. Shadowy figures are also commonly reported. Visitors glimpse shapes flitting across shelves or moving between racks of costumes. Some describe dancers performing pirouettes or actors pacing as if memorizing lines. Others see stagehands adjusting unseen props or carrying phantom instruments, their movements deliberate and precise. These apparitions rarely engage directly with observers. Instead, they appear absorbed in their work, maintaining the routines that once sustained the vibrant life of the opera house. Many believe that these are the spirits of performers and staff, eternally rehearsing, perfecting performances that never reach the stage. The architecture of the warehouse contributes to its haunting. High ceilings, open floors, and long corridors amplify every sound, making footsteps, whispers, and rustling fabric echo dramatically. Broken windows allow shafts of sunlight to cast moving patterns across racks and crates, creating fleeting illusions of motion. Even minor drafts carry the faintest sound of music or the soft whoosh of fabric moving, as if the building itself breathes the rhythm of performances past. Storms intensify the experience. Rain beating against the roof and wind whistling through cracks transform into a symphony of phantom movement. The echo of countless rehearsals replaying over and over in the acoustically resonant space. Temperature fluctuations heighten the eeriness. Certain areas feel inexplicably cold, particularly near old costume racks or beneath lofted platforms, while others retain residual warmth from trapped sunlight. Some visitors report brief touches, as if a hand brushes past a shoulder or an invisible performer adjusts a prop. These subtle sensations contribute to the sense that the spirits of actors, musicians, and stagehands remain, carrying out the meticulous work of production, bound by dedication to their art. History deepens the haunting. The warehouse was essential for the Detroit Opera House, storing everything necessary to transform the main stage into worlds of fantasy, drama, and emotion. Workers and performers often spent long hours here, preparing for shows, repairing costumes, and rehearsing lines or choreography. The energy, focus, and occasional frustration of these intense creative efforts left an imprint that many believe still lingers. The warehouse, in this sense, is a repository of memory, preserving not just objects, but the emotions, discipline, and artistry that once filled its space. Even in broad daylight, the warehouse can be disorienting. Dust motes drift in patterns that suggest motion, often resembling dancers or actors moving between racks and crates. Shadows twist and shift across floors, giving the illusion of performance. Combined with auditory phenomena, these visual effects create a full sensory experience, layering past and present into a single, immersive reality. Visitors often feel transported, watching unseen performers rehearse, and participating in a space where the artistry of decades past still thrives invisibly. Despite abandonment, the Detroit Opera House warehouse continues to draw explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio devices frequently capture unexplained phenomena. Phantom footsteps, whispers, musical notes, and shadowy figures performing tasks long since forgotten. And artistry, as if the spirits of performers continue their rehearsals, preserving the beauty and dedication of the theater. The Detroit Opera House warehouse remains one of Detroit's most haunting cultural sites. Its floors echo with music, the creak of wooden platforms, and the rustle of unseen costumes. Shadowy figures move among racks and crates, rehearsing performances frozen in time. For those who step inside, the experience is immersive and unforgettable, a journey into the heart of a place where art, dedication, and performance persist, and where the spirits of those who gave their lives to the stage continue to rehearse for shows that never end. The Detroit Police Warehouse stands as a stark, silent reminder of the city's law enforcement history. Once a bustling facility, it served as a central storage hub for the Detroit Police Department, holding everything from uniforms and vehicles to evidence and equipment. Officers and staff moved through its wide corridors, organizing files, inventorying supplies, and preparing gear for the streets. The clang of metal, the shuffle of boots across concrete floors, and the hum of fluorescent lights filled the building daily. Today, however, the warehouse is mostly abandoned, its walls crumbling and its floors dust-covered. Yet those who dare to explore it report that the past refuses to remain quiet. The echoes of footsteps, the distant clink of handcuffs, and murmurs of voices still haunt the space, as if officers and detainees alike continue to inhabit its shadowed corridors. From the moment one steps inside, the weight of history presses in. Sunlight filters through broken windows, casting fractured beams across towering shelves, rusted filing cabinets, and empty storage racks. Dust hangs thick in the air, drifting in motes that seem almost alive, reflecting in patches of light. Many visitors report a sudden, chilling awareness that they are not entirely alone. Shadows seem to shift in the corners of the eyes, and faint sounds appear to come from places where no one stands. The building exudes a quiet tension, a sense that the lives of officers and suspects who once passed through its halls have left an indelible mark, creating a presence that lingers long after human activity has ceased. Auditory phenomena are among the most striking aspects of the warehouse's haunting. Explorers often hear the echo of boots striking concrete floors, sometimes pacing methodically, other times moving in a rush. The metallic clang of handcuffs, the rattle of keys, and the occasional thud of equipment falling resonate through the empty building. Voices low, distant, and often unintelligible, reported frequently, as if conversations between officers or exchanges with detainees are replaying. Some claim to hear the sound of radios crackling, doors slamming, and papers shuffling, reproducing a symphony of police activity frozen in time. Audio recordings occasionally capture these phenomena, revealing layered sounds that seem impossible for an empty warehouse to produce. The overlapping echoes suggest multiple presences, working or wandering through the facilities simultaneously. Shadowy figures are often glimpsed in the peripheral vision of those who explore the warehouse. Some visitors describe uniformed officers walking through aisles, checking equipment, or carrying invisible cases. Others report seeing figures in handcuffs or detainees being led through hallways, their movements cautious or hurried, as if navigating rules still etched into memory. These figures rarely confront intruders. Instead, They appear absorbed in routines that continue beyond the confines of life. Witnesses often describe a sense of purpose emanating from these apparitions, a lingering dedication to duty, or the uneasy resignation of those who were confined, bound by the energy of past events. The architecture of the warehouse enhances its spectral quality. High ceilings, long corridors, and cavernous storage areas create natural echoes that magnify even the smallest sound. Broken windows and open vents allow wind to sweep through, carrying haunting whistles that sometimes resemble voices or the movement of unseen figures. Metal shelving amplifies the clang of ghostly handcuffs or dropped keys, while shadows cast by sunlight create shifting shapes that appear almost human. During storms, the experience intensifies. Rain pelting the roof and gusting wind combine with the building's natural acoustics to produce a ghostly symphony of footsteps, doors, and muffled voices, replicating the atmosphere of a facility in constant use. Temperature variations contribute to the unsettling sensation. Certain areas feel inexplicably cold, particularly near rows of old filing cabinets or storage cages. Others retain residual warmth from trapped sunlight or nearby machinery, creating an unsettling contrast. Visitors sometimes report fleeting touches, brushes against arms, or the sensation of being guided or blocked by unseen presences. These subtle interactions reinforce the impression that the warehouse is not entirely empty, and that the spirits of officers and detainees remain, replaying routines or lingering out of obligation, habit, or unrest. History adds context to the haunting. The Detroit Police Warehouse stored equipment essential to maintaining public safety and law enforcement operations. Officers often worked long, physically demanding hours, managing supplies, preparing vehicles, and overseeing evidence. Detainees passed through at times of arrest, interrogation, or transfer, often leaving emotional traces of fear, frustration, or resignation. The mixture of intensity, discipline, and occasional trauma left a lasting imprint on the building. Many believe that this accumulated energy persists, manifesting as the footsteps, clanging metal, voices, and shadowy figures that modern visitors encounter. Even in daylight, the warehouse is disorienting. Dust motes drift in patterns that suggest movement, while shadows twist along walls and shelving, creating illusions of figures passing or lingering. Combined with the auditory phenomena, these visual effects create a layered reality, where past and present coexist. Explorers often describe stepping into a space where time feels fluid, where echoes of authority, duty, and fear continue to play out in the absence of the living. Despite decay and neglect, the Detroit Police Warehouse continues to attract urban explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio devices frequently capture unexplained activity, shadowy forms, echoing footsteps, the clink of handcuffs, and faint murmurs that resemble conversations long ended. Even those who leave without tangible evidence report a profound impression of presence, as if the spirits of officers and detainees continue to inhabit the space, performing the routines and interactions that once defined its purpose. The Detroit Police Warehouse remains one of the city's most chilling haunted sites. Its halls echo with footsteps, the clink of metal, and the distant murmur of voices. Shadowy figures move through aisles and corridors, caught in the routines of duty and confinement. For those who venture inside, the experience is immersive and unforgettable, a journey into the heart of a building where law enforcement once thrived, and where the spirits of officers and detainees continue to linger, refusing to rest in the shadows. The Detroit Fire Department warehouse stands as a forgotten sentinel to the city's firefighting history, a building that once pulsed with urgency, discipline, and the weight of responsibility. In its operational years, the warehouse was a central hub for storing equipment, hoses, ladders, protective gear, and other vital supplies necessary for firefighters to respond to emergencies across Detroit. The air was filled with the metallic scent of tools, the faint smell of smoke lingering from training exercises, and the rhythmic clatter of boots on concrete floors. Firefighters and staff moved with precision and purpose, checking inventory, repairing gear, and preparing trucks for rapid deployment. Today, the warehouse is largely abandoned, Yet the echoes of the past refuse to be silenced. Visitors report hearing the distant wail of sirens, the hurried rush of footsteps, and voices calling commands, as if the firefighters of decades past continue their rounds unseen. From the moment one steps inside, the atmosphere is heavy with history. Light streams through cracked windows, illuminating long rows of shelving, stacked with empty crates, dusty equipment, and forgotten tools. The concrete floors are scuffed and cracked, evidence of decades of labor, and every footstep resonates through the cavernous space. Many who explore the warehouse report a sudden awareness, a sense that unseen eyes are following their movements, watching and measuring, as if the building itself remembers the countless firefighters who once depended on its resources. There is a palpable tension in the air, a mixture of urgency and vigilance that hangs like an invisible presence. Sound is the most commonly reported phenomenon within the warehouse. Visitors frequently hear the wail of a distant fire engine siren, echoing through empty halls, even when no vehicles are nearby. Footsteps pound along the floors, sometimes fast and urgent, sometimes slow and methodical, mimicking the routines of a fire crew preparing for a call. The clink of metal hoses snapping into place, axes being set down, or ladders adjusted often, accompanies these footsteps. Faint voices carry through the corridors, commands given, reports relayed, or casual exchanges between firefighters at work. Some claim to hear radios crackling, the hiss of water from a training hose, or the slam of heavy doors, all creating the impression that the warehouse is still in active operation. Audio recordings made by explorers sometimes capture these sounds layered together, creating a symphony of phantom emergency response that seems to replay decades of history. Shadowy figures are a frequent occurrence. Many visitors report glimpsing uniformed shapes moving between shelving units or carrying invisible equipment. Some describe firefighters adjusting gear, checking hoses, or organizing tools with meticulous care. Others witness figures moving quickly, as though responding to an alarm, rushing to meet a call that no one else can see. These apparitions rarely acknowledge intruders. They appear entirely absorbed in their duties, repeating the precise routines that once defined their work. Many believe that these spirits are bound to the warehouse by their commitment to service, continuing to respond to emergencies long after life has left them. The architecture of the warehouse enhances its spectral qualities. High ceilings and open floor plans create natural echoes, amplifying even the faintest sound of movement or metal striking concrete. Broken windows allow drafts to whistle through, sometimes carrying whispers or the impression of distant shouting. Rusted shelving and scattered crates multiply the echoes, transforming simple noises into layered, immersive experiences. Storms heighten the effect, as rain pelts the roof and wind sweeps through cracks, producing an uncanny symphony of phantom footsteps, sirens, and shouted commands. It is in these moments that explorers often report the strongest sense of being in two times at once, present in the abandoned building, yet surrounded by the energy of firefighters at work decades ago. Temperature fluctuations add another layer to the haunting. Some areas feel inexplicably cold, particularly near stacks of old gear or beneath lofted storage platforms. Other areas hold residual warmth, either from sunlight filtering through windows or trapped heat from equipment, creating an unsettling contrast. Visitors occasionally report brief touches, the sensation of a brush against the shoulder, or the light grip of an invisible hand guiding them through the aisles. These subtle interactions reinforce the sense that the warehouse is not truly empty, that the spirits of firefighters remain dedicated to their duties, and that their presence is both protective and purposeful. The history of the Detroit Fire Department warehouse contextualizes its hauntings. The building was essential for the city's firefighting operations, ensuring that every firehouse was supplied with functional equipment, ready to respond at a moment's notice. Workers spent long hours maintaining gear, preparing trucks, and training for emergencies, often under physically and mentally demanding conditions. The intensity, focus, and occasional danger inherent in this work left an imprint on the building, one that many believe continues to manifest in the form of auditory, visual, and tactile phenomena. The warehouse in this sense, is more than a storage facility. It is a repository for the energy, dedication, and vigilance of those who once relied upon it. Even in daylight, the warehouse is disorienting. Dust motes drift in patterns that suggest motion. Shadows shift across shelves and crates, and faint sounds carry unnaturally far. Visitors often describe feeling as though they are stepping into a living memory, witnessing the preparation, urgency, and dedication of firefighters at work. The building seems to exist simultaneously in the present and the past, creating an immersive experience where echoes of service and sacrifice remain vividly alive. Despite decay and abandonment, the Detroit Fire Department warehouse continues to attract urban explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio equipment frequently capture unexplained phenomena, footsteps, sirens, whispers, and shadowy figures performing routines long forgotten. Even those who leave without tangible evidence often describe a profound impression of presence, as if the spirits of firefighters continue to patrol the aisles, preparing for calls that no one else can hear. The Detroit Fire Department warehouse remains one of Detroit's most haunting and evocative industrial sites. Its floors echo with sirens, the clatter of metal, and the rhythmic footsteps of phantom firefighters. Shadowy figures move among crates and shelving, responding to emergencies that never arrive, rehearsing routines frozen in time. For those who venture inside, the experience is immersive and unforgettable. A journey into a building where duty, vigilance, and courage persist, and where the spirits of Detroit's firefighters continue to respond to the call, refusing to rest. The Detroit Historical Society warehouse stands as a silent testament to the city's rich and layered past, a building that once held the tangible remnants of Detroit's history. In its operational days, the warehouse was a hub of organization and preservation, containing artifacts, documents, and exhibits that captured the story of the city and its people. Curators, archivists, and staff moved through its high-ceilinged corridors with meticulous care, handling fragile objects, cataloging papers, and preparing exhibits for public display. The air was a mixture of old wood, aging paper, polished metals, and the faint scent of varnish from display cases. Today, while the warehouse is largely abandoned, visitors often report that the past refuses to remain quiet. Footsteps echo along the concrete floors, papers rustle without cause, and distant voices murmur, as if historians and researchers continue their work unseen. From the first step inside, the atmosphere is thick with memory. Sunlight filters through tall, dusty windows, illuminating rows of shelving lined with crates, boxes, and storage cabinets filled with historical objects. Shadows stretch across the walls, moving with the shifting light, and dust motes drift in the air like miniature specters. Many who explore the warehouse describe an almost palpable awareness that the building remembers its occupants, that the curators, archivists, and historians who once moved through these halls have left an imprint of their presence. There is a quiet intensity here, a feeling of reverence and focus that seems to linger long after the human activity has ceased. Sound is the most frequently reported aspect of the haunting. Visitors often hear the echo of footsteps on the concrete floors, seemingly moving in tandem with the patterns of past researchers. The rustle of papers is commonly noted, as if someone is leafing through documents or sorting archival materials. Faint whispers can sometimes be heard, indistinct but suggestive of conversation or instructions, as if curators are debating the placement of artifacts or the interpretation of history. Some explorers claim to hear the sliding of drawers, the clatter of objects being carefully set down, or the soft scraping of a cataloging pen against paper. Audio recordings occasionally capture these phenomena, layering footsteps, rustling, and murmurings together in a soundscape that evokes a warehouse alive with scholarly activity. Shadowy figures are often glimpsed at the edge of vision. Some visitors describe historians bending over desks, sorting papers, or carefully inspecting artifacts. Others report seeing figures moving along shelving aisles, adjusting crates or carrying invisible objects, performing tasks with meticulous precision. These apparitions rarely acknowledge the living. They appear absorbed in their work, repeating routines that continue beyond the bounds of their physical lives. Many who witness them believe these are the spirits of historians and archivists, eternally curating and preserving the legacy of Detroit, bound to the artifacts they once cared for so diligently. The architecture of the warehouse amplifies its haunting. High ceilings, long corridors, and expansive shelving create natural echoes, magnifying every movement, from a footstep to the subtle scrape of a box. Broken windows allow the wind to whistle through, carrying soft, indistinct sounds that resemble conversations or the shifting of materials. Metal shelving and scattered crates reflect sound and shadow, creating fleeting illusions of figures moving through the space. During storms, the auditory phenomena intensify. Rain striking the roof and gusts of wind create an eerie symphony, blending the sound of nature with the warehouse's own lingering activity. The effect is immersive, as though the past and present coexist in a single, layered reality. Temperature variations contribute to the disorienting experience. Certain areas feel inexplicably cold, especially near rows of archival boxes or under lofted storage platforms, while other spots retain residual warmth from sunlight or trapped heat. Some visitors report brief sensations of touch, a light brush against an arm, or the subtle shift of a crate, as if someone has moved it just out of reach. These fleeting interactions reinforce the sense that the warehouse is not empty, that the spirits of those who dedicated their lives to preserving history remain vigilant and engaged. The history of the Detroit Historical Society warehouse provides context for its haunting. For decades, the building was essential for the preservation and organization of artifacts that tell the city's story. Employees spent long hours cataloging documents, preparing exhibits, and ensuring that historical objects were protected from decay. The focus, care, and occasional urgency of this work left a lasting imprint on the building. Many believe that this energy persists, manifesting as auditory, visual, and tactile phenomena that modern visitors encounter. The warehouse becomes more than a storage facility. It is a repository of memory, knowledge, and devotion to preserving the past. Even in daylight, the warehouse can feel disorienting. Dust motes drift in patterns that suggest motion. Shadows twist across floors and shelving, and faint sounds travel farther than seems possible. Visitors often describe the sensation of stepping into a living memory, witnessing historians at work, and experiencing the space as it was decades ago. The building seems suspended in time, a place where the dedication to preserving Detroit's heritage persists, layered atop the physical decay of the present. Despite abandonment, the Detroit Historical Society warehouse continues to attract urban explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio devices frequently capture unexplained activity, footsteps, rustling papers, shadowy figures, and whispers of conversation. Even those who leave without tangible evidence often describe a profound sense of presence, a feeling that the spirits of curators and archivists continue to move among the artifacts, ensuring that the city's history remains alive and cared for. The Detroit Historical Society warehouse remains one of the city's most evocative haunted sites. Its halls echo with footsteps, the rustle of papers, and the soft murmur of distant voices. Shadowy figures move among crates, shelving, and desks, perpetually curating exhibits frozen in time. For those who venture inside, the experience is immersive and unforgettable. A journey into a building where history is not just remembered, but actively tended by the spirits of those who devoted their lives to preserving it, ensuring that Detroit's past continues to live on in the present. The Detroit Institute of Art's warehouse sits on the outskirts of the city, an unassuming brick building that once served as a vital storage facility for one of Detroit's most prestigious cultural institutions. Behind its tall, rusted gates and weathered walls, priceless works of art, paintings, sculptures, prints, and delicate artifacts were carefully cataloged and stored, awaiting display or preservation. In its operational years, the warehouse was a hive of activity. Curators, archivists, and art handlers moved with precision, unrolling canvases, adjusting frames, and checking condition reports. The scent of varnish, aged paper, and polished wood mingled in the air, carrying a subtle, almost intoxicating trace of creativity and history. Today, the warehouse is largely abandoned, yet those who enter report that the past refuses to fade. Footsteps echo along empty aisles, canvas rustles without human touch, and distant murmurs suggest that the spirits of artists, curators, and museum staff still inhabit the space. From the moment one steps inside, the atmosphere is heavy with memory. Light filters through cracked windows, falling in fractured beams across rows of shelving, stacked crates, and covered artworks. Dust hangs in the air, drifting in slow, hypnotic patterns that often appear to shift like shapes in motion. Many visitors describe a sense of being watched, though the source remains unseen. Shadows flicker across walls and floors, moving in ways that suggest human presence. There is a palpable intensity in the air, an almost reverent energy, as if the warehouse itself remembers the hands that once tended its treasures and continues to honor their work. Sound is the most frequently reported phenomenon. Explorers often hear the faint tap of footsteps on concrete floors, slow and deliberate, as if someone is moving carefully around fragile works of art. The rustle of canvas and the soft sliding of frames along shelving are common occurrences. Even in the absence of human activity, some claim to hear the distant murmur of voices, indistinct but unmistakably discussing or debating the placement, restoration, or significance of particular pieces. Occasionally, the faint scrape of a brush or the delicate patter of an artist adjusting a sculpture is reported, creating the sense that the warehouse is still alive with creative energy. Audio recordings sometimes capture these sounds layered together, producing a symphony of phantom activity that seems to replay the routines of decades past. Shadowy figures are frequently glimpsed. Some visitors report seeing curators moving between crates, their silhouettes bending over canvases or gently adjusting sculptures. Others describe ghostly artists at work, paintbrushes moving as if across invisible canvases, or hands reaching out to straighten frames with meticulous care. These apparitions rarely acknowledge intruders. They appear absorbed in their tasks, continuing the work they dedicated their lives to, performing rituals of creation and preservation that extend beyond death. Many believe these spirits are bound to the warehouse by devotion, unable to leave the artworks they once nurtured. The architecture of the warehouse enhances its haunting. High ceilings, wide aisles, and vast shelving units create natural echoes, amplifying even minor movements. Broken windows and vents allow air to whistle through, sometimes carrying sounds that resemble soft footsteps or the sliding of materials. Light plays across stacked crates and covered paintings, casting fleeting shapes that suggest movement. During storms, the auditory and visual effects intensify. Wind rattles the windows, rain strikes the roof, and every creak and groan of the structure becomes part of a ghostly orchestra, blending seamlessly with echoes of footsteps, rustling canvas, and distant murmurs. Explorers often describe the sensation of being caught between two worlds, present in an abandoned building, yet surrounded by the energy and purpose of the past. Temperature fluctuations add to the eerie atmosphere. Certain areas feel inexplicably cold, particularly near stacks of fragile canvases or under lofted storage platforms. Other areas retain the warmth of sunlight filtering through windows or trapped heat from structural materials, creating an unsettling contrast. Visitors sometimes report the sensation of being lightly touched, a hand brushing past their shoulder, or the faint shift of an unseen object. These subtle interactions reinforce the sense that the warehouse is not empty, that the spirits of artists and curators continue their work, unseen but attentive. History provides context for the haunting. The Detroit Institute of Art's warehouse was essential for the preservation of the city's artistic legacy. Employees devoted countless hours to cataloging, protecting, and moving works of art, ensuring that each piece survived the passage of time and could be shared with future generations. The intense focus, care, and occasional urgency of these efforts left a lasting imprint on the building. Many believe that this energy remains, manifesting as auditory, visual, and tactile phenomena experienced by modern visitors. The warehouse, in this sense, becomes more than storage. It is a repository of memory, artistry, and devotion to creative expression. Even in daylight, the warehouse can be disorienting. Dust motes drift in patterns that suggest motion, shadows twist across crates and shelving, and faint sounds carry unnaturally far. Visitors often describe the sensation of stepping into a living archive, witnessing the dedication of curators, archivists, and artists, and experiencing the space as it was during its operational years. The building seems suspended in time, a place where creativity and preservation persist. Layered atop the decay of the present, despite abandonment, the Detroit Institute of Art's warehouse continues to draw urban explorers, art historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio devices frequently capture unexplained activity, footsteps, rustling canvas, whispers of conversation, and shadowy figures moving among crates and artworks. Even those who leave without concrete evidence often describe a profound sense of presence, a feeling that the spirits of those who dedicated their lives to art continue to care for it, ensuring that creativity and history remain alive. The Detroit Institute of Art's warehouse remains one of Detroit's most evocative haunted sites. Its aisles echo with footsteps, the soft rustle of canvas, and the distant murmur of voices. Shadowy figures move among crates and shelving, continuing to curate and create in a space frozen in time. For those who venture inside, the experience is immersive and unforgettable, a journey into a building where artistry, devotion, and history coexist, and where the spirits of Detroit's artists and curators continue their work, refusing to fade into silence. The Detroit Science Center warehouse stands as a silent monument to a time when discovery and innovation filled every corner of its expansive interior. Once a bustling storage facility for the Detroit Science Center, it held exhibits, scientific instruments, educational models, and equipment used to bring the wonders of science to life for visitors of all ages. Technicians, educators, and researchers moved through its corridors with careful purpose, cataloging devices, repairing machinery, and preparing exhibits for public display. The air was thick with the mingling scents of metal, oil, aged paper, and the faint aroma of preserved specimens. Today, the warehouse is largely abandoned. Yet those who venture inside report that the energy of the past refuses to remain dormant. Footsteps echo along the concrete floors. Machines hum without power, and distant murmurs suggest that the spirits of scientists and educators still walk its halls, continuing experiments unseen. From the moment one steps inside, the atmosphere is charged with a strange mixture of curiosity and unease. Light filters through cracked windows, scattering across towering shelves, stacked crates, and covered instruments. Dust hangs thick in the air, drifting in slow, almost hypnotic patterns, catching in the corners of the eyes. Visitors often describe a sensation of being observed, though no living presence is apparent. Shadows stretch across walls and floors, occasionally appearing to move with deliberate purpose. There is an intangible tension here, a sense that the building itself remembers the hands that worked tirelessly to unlock the mysteries of science and continues to echo their activity. Auditory phenomena are among the most commonly reported experiences. Many visitors hear the faint whirring and clanking of machines, as if gears are turning, levers are being pulled, and apparatuses are coming to life. The rustle of papers and the soft sliding of instruments along shelves are frequently noted, even when no one is present. Some report hearing indistinct voices, murmuring calculations, instructions, or experimental observations, echoing down long aisles as though a lecture is being conducted in an empty laboratory. Occasionally, the subtle clatter of glass beakers, the tapping of metal, or the quiet hiss of a phantom steam release accompanies these sounds, creating the impression of a space still alive with scientific inquiry. Audio recordings occasionally capture these phenomena, producing a layered symphony of ghostly activity that seems to replicate the routines of researchers long gone. Shadowy figures are often glimpsed in the periphery of vision. Some visitors report seeing scientists bent over tables, scribbling notes on invisible forms or adjusting unseen equipment. Others describe figures moving quickly through the aisles, checking instruments, or carefully rearranging crates, as if conducting experiments that never end. These apparitions rarely acknowledge intruders. They appear absorbed in their work, performing tasks with meticulous care and concentration. Many believe these are the spirits of researchers, bound to the warehouse by their dedication to discovery, compelled to continue experiments that remain incomplete even in death. The architecture of the warehouse amplifies its haunting qualities. High ceilings, expansive shelving, and long corridors create natural echoes, magnifying even the faintest sounds of movement. Broken windows allow drafts to sweep through the interior, carrying noises that sometimes resemble whispers, distant steps, or the hum of machines starting and stopping. Light filtering through dust and cracks often produces fleeting shapes that appear to move or reach toward visitors. During storms, the auditory experience intensifies. Rain strikes the roof, wind whistles through gaps, and the creaks and groans of the structure blend seamlessly with the phantom noises, creating an immersive, almost theatrical atmosphere. Explorers frequently describe the sensation of being caught between two eras, simultaneously present in the abandoned warehouse and surrounded by the unseen energy of researchers at work. Temperature fluctuations contribute to the eerie sensation of presence. Some areas feel inexplicably cold, particularly near stacks of delicate instruments or under lofted storage platforms, while other areas retain warmth from trapped sunlight or structural materials. Visitors occasionally report brief touches or brushes against arms, as if unseen hands are guiding them along pathways or rearranging equipment just out of reach. These subtle interactions reinforce the sense that the warehouse is not truly empty and that the spirits of scientists continue to operate within it, their curiosity and dedication undiminished by the passage of time. The history of the Detroit Science Center warehouse explains much of its haunting. For decades, it was essential for the preparation, storage, and maintenance of exhibits that educated generations about the natural world, technology, and scientific principles. Staff devoted long hours to ensuring that each experiment, model, and demonstration was in perfect working order. The intensity, focus, and occasional urgency inherent in this work left a lasting imprint on the building. Many believe that the energy of those who dedicated their lives to science lingers, manifesting as auditory, visual, and tactile phenomena that modern visitors can perceive. In this sense, the warehouse is more than a storage facility, is a repository of curiosity, knowledge, and dedication. Even during daylight, the warehouse can feel disorienting. Dust motes drift in ways that suggest motion. Shadows twist across shelving and crates, and faint sounds seem to travel unnaturally far. Visitors often describe feeling as though they have stepped into a living laboratory, witnessing unseen scientists conducting experiments, recording observations, and interacting with instruments. The building seems suspended in time, a place where inquiry and discovery persist, layered atop the decay of the present. Despite abandonment, the Detroit Science Center warehouse continues to attract urban explorers, scientists, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio devices frequently capture unexplained phenomena, footsteps, rustling papers, hums of machinery, whispering voices, and shadowy figures conducting unseen experiments. Even those who leave without tangible evidence often describe a profound impression of presence. The sense that the spirits of researchers continue to investigate, examine, and discover, ensuring that the pursuit of knowledge remains alive within these walls. The Detroit Science Center warehouse remains one of Detroit's most compelling haunted sites. Its aisles echo with footsteps, the hum of machines, and the soft rustle of paper. Shadowy figures move among shelves and crates, conducting experiments that never end. For those who venture inside, the experience is immersive and unforgettable, a journey into a space where science and the supernatural converge, where the dedication and curiosity of researchers persist, and where the spirits of Detroit's scientists continue their work, refusing to fade into silence. The Detroit Historical Museum warehouse is a silent monument to the city's past, a building that once stored artifacts chronicling Detroit's rich and turbulent history. In its operational years, curators and archivists moved carefully through rows of shelving and stacked crates, cataloging items, restoring fragile artifacts, and preparing exhibits for the museum. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood, paper, and metals preserved for posterity. Every movement within the warehouse was deliberate, a careful dance meant to protect and honor the city's legacy. Today, though largely abandoned, the warehouse is far from empty. Visitors often report hearing footsteps echoing across the concrete floors, the rustle of papers and boxes, and the distant murmur of voices that seem to discuss exhibits long gone. From the moment one steps inside, the atmosphere is steeped in memory. Light filters through dusty windows, casting fractured beams across crates, covered artifacts, and long-forgotten objects. Dust drifts lazily through the air, giving the illusion of movement along the floors and shelves. Many who enter feel a subtle presence, as if unseen eyes are following their movements. Shadows stretch and shift along walls, sometimes appearing to move with intention. The building itself seems alive with the energy of those who once tended to it, absorbing the dedication and focus of generations of historians who cared for Detroit's artifacts. Sound is the most immediate reminder of the warehouse's lingering past. Visitors often hear the soft rustle of papers or the sliding of drawers, as though someone is examining archival materials. Footsteps echo deliberately through the aisles, accompanied by the faint murmur of voices discussing the provenance of objects or planning exhibits. Occasionally, the creak of floorboards or the subtle shifting of crates punctuates the otherwise quiet space. Those who record audio inside the warehouse sometimes capture layered sounds, creating an eerie symphony of movement, whispers, and examination that mirrors the activities of curators long gone. Shadowy figures are often glimpsed at the edges of perception. Some visitors describe historians bending over tables or crates, inspecting items or making invisible notes, while others see silhouettes moving along the aisles before vanishing into the shadows. These figures rarely acknowledge intruders, absorbed entirely in their work, repeating the careful routines that characterize their lives. Many believe these spirits are bound to the warehouse by devotion, compelled to continue their labor of preserving and cataloging history beyond death. The architecture of the warehouse enhances its haunting qualities. High ceilings and long rows of shelving create natural echoes, carrying the faintest sounds far down the aisles. Broken windows and vents allow drafts that sometimes mimic whispers or the shifting of objects. Light streaming through cracks produces fleeting, moving shapes across crates and shelves, creating the impression of activity where there is none. Storms heighten the effect, rain striking the roof, wind whistling through openings, and the creaking of the building blends seamlessly with phantom footsteps, rustling papers, and distant murmurs. Visitors often describe stepping into a space suspended between two eras, physically present, yet enveloped by the energy of historians. At work decades earlier, even in daylight, the warehouse can feel disorienting. Dust drifts in patterns that suggest movement, shadows twist across artifacts, and faint sounds travel farther than seems possible. Explorers often describe stepping into a living archive, witnessing unseen curators handling objects, cataloging materials, and maintaining exhibits suspended in time. The warehouse exists in a liminal space, where the act of preserving history never truly ends, layered atop the decay of the present. Despite its abandonment, the Detroit Historical Museum warehouse continues to attract historians, urban explorers, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio equipment often capture unexplained phenomena: footsteps, rustling papers, whispered voices, and fleeting shadows. Even those who leave without tangible proof frequently report a profound sense of presence, a feeling that the spirits of curators continue their work, ensuring that Detroit's history remains alive and carefully tended. The Detroit Historical Museum warehouse remains one of the city's most haunting locations. Its aisles echo with footsteps, the rustle of papers, and distant murmurs. Shadowy figures move among crates and shelves, performing tasks that never truly end. For those who enter, the experience is immersive, a journey into a space where history is not merely remembered but actively curated by spirits who refuse to fade, keeping Detroit's past alive within these walls. The Detroit Science Center warehouse stands as a silent monument to curiosity and discovery. A building that once held the tools and exhibits of one of the city's most celebrated educational institutions. In its operational years, the warehouse was filled with scientific apparatus, interactive displays, and carefully preserved specimens, all awaiting placement in the museum or repair by skilled technicians. Staff moved through the cavernous halls with methodical precision, checking instruments, cataloging equipment, and preparing experiments to demonstrate principles of physics, chemistry, and biology to the public. The air was heavy with the scent of aged metal, polished glass, and the faint trace of chemical preservatives, a combination that hinted at both discovery and care. Today, the warehouse is largely abandoned, yet those who step inside report that the energy of the past refuses to fade. Footsteps echo across empty floors, machines hum without power, and faint murmurs suggest that the spirits of scientists and educators continue their work unseen. From the moment one enters, the atmosphere is thick with the presence of memory. Light streams through broken windows, illuminating rows of shelves stacked with crates, boxes, and covered exhibits. Dust hangs in the air, drifting slowly like ghostly particles, and shadows stretch along walls and floors, sometimes appearing to shift with a mind of their own. Visitors often report a sense of being watched, though no living presence is near. There is a subtle tension, a feeling that the warehouse remembers the hands that once moved with purpose among its shelves, and that it has absorbed their dedication to discovery. Sound is the most common way the past makes itself known. Many visitors hear the faint whirring of machines, the clatter of unseen objects, or the soft hiss of air escaping from old laboratory equipment. Papers rustle as if someone is leafing through notes, and crates occasionally groan as though their contents are being inspected or adjusted. Indistinct voices are often reported, murmuring calculations, instructions, or discussion of ongoing experiments. The combined effect is an eerie soundscape, a blend of curiosity and diligence that seems to replay the routines of scientists who once worked tirelessly to educate and explore. Recordings made in the warehouse sometimes capture these layers of phantom activity, producing a haunting chorus of footfalls, whispers, and mechanical sounds. Shadowy figures are a frequent sight for those who venture inside. Some describe scientists bent over tables, scribbling on invisible notebooks, or adjusting equipment that no longer exists. Others see shapes moving swiftly along shelving, performing tasks with meticulous care as though experiments continue beyond the constraints of time. These apparitions rarely acknowledge the living. They appear absorbed in their work, repeating the careful movements of research, testing, and demonstration that characterized the warehouse's operational years. Many believe that the spirits are bound by their devotion to science, compelled to continue experiments even after death. The architecture of the warehouse amplifies its spectral qualities. High ceilings, wide aisles, and long corridors create natural echoes that carry every movement, while broken windows allow drafts to carry sounds in unpredictable ways. Light filtering through cracks and holes often produces fleeting, shifting shapes that suggest movement where there is none. During storms, the experience becomes more intense. Rain strikes the roof in a staccato rhythm. Wind whistles through gaps, and every creak of the structure blends seamlessly with the ghostly echoes of machinery, footsteps, and murmuring voices. Visitors often describe the sensation of stepping into a space suspended between two eras, simultaneously abandoned yet alive with the presence of unseen researchers. Temperature variations add another layer to the warehouse's haunting. Certain areas feel inexplicably cold, particularly near stacks of delicate instruments or underlofted platforms, while other areas retain warmth from sunlight or trapped air. Explorers occasionally report brief touches, the subtle movement of objects, or the sensation of being guided along a pathway. These fleeting interactions reinforce the impression that the warehouse is not empty. that the spirits of scientists, educators, and technicians remain present, continuing their work unseen. The history of the Detroit Science Center warehouse provides context for the haunting. For decades, the building played a crucial role in the preparation, storage, and maintenance of exhibits that educated the public on scientific principles. Staff devoted long hours to checking, repairing, and cataloging objects, ensuring that each item was ready for display and capable of inspiring awe and understanding. The intensity, focus, and occasional urgency of this work left a lasting imprint on the building. Many believe that this energy persists, manifesting as auditory, visual, and tactile phenomena experienced by modern visitors. In this sense, the warehouse is more than storage. It is a repository of knowledge, curiosity, and dedication. Even in daylight, the space can feel disorienting. Dust drifts in patterns that suggest motion, shadows shift across shelving and crates, and faint sounds carry farther than seems possible. Visitors often describe the sensation of stepping into a living laboratory, witnessing unseen scientists at work, recording observations, adjusting instruments, and performing experiments that never truly end. The warehouse seems suspended in time, where inquiry and discovery persist, layered atop the decay of the present. Despite abandonment, the Detroit Science Center warehouse continues to attract explorers, scientists, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio devices frequently capture unexplained phenomena, the whir of machinery, footsteps, rustling papers, whispers, and shadowy figures moving among crates and equipment. Even those who leave without tangible proof often describe a profound sense of presence. The impression that the spirits of researchers continue their work, ensuring that curiosity, learning, and the pursuit of knowledge remain alive within the walls. The Detroit Science Center warehouse remains one of Detroit's most compelling haunted locations. Its aisles echo with footsteps, the hum of machines, and the soft rustle of papers. Shadowy figures move among shelves and exhibits, performing experiments that never end. For those who venture inside, the experience is immersive and unforgettable. A journey into a space where science meets the supernatural, where dedication and curiosity persist beyond the living world, and where the spirits of Detroit's scientists continue their work, refusing to fade into silence. The Detroit Public Library Warehouse stands as a quiet testament to the city's pursuit of knowledge. A building that once housed countless books, manuscripts, and archival materials. In its operational years, the warehouse was a bustling hub for librarians, archivists, and catalogers who moved with deliberate precision among rows of shelving, carefully organizing, preserving, and preparing materials for circulation or study. The air was heavy with the scent of paper, ink, and aged bindings, mingling with the faint aroma of polished wood from the towering shelves. Visitors today report that the warehouse is far from empty. The energy of the past lingers, and those who enter often experience an unsettling yet compelling sense of presence. Footsteps echo along concrete floors, pages seem to turn on their own, and distant murmurs suggest that the spirits of librarians continue their work unseen. From the moment one steps inside, the atmosphere is thick with the weight of history and knowledge. Light filters through tall, dusty windows, casting fractured beams across endless rows of shelving, stacks of crates, and covered manuscripts. Dust drifts slowly in the air, giving the illusion of movement, and shadows stretch along walls and floors as though they are following visitors every step. Many who enter report a subtle sensation of being observed, though no living presence is visible. The building itself seems alive, as though it remembers the meticulous care and devotion of the librarians who spent decades tending to its collections. And it continues to echo their dedication. Sound is the most commonly reported phenomenon. Visitors often hear the faint rustle of pages turning, as if someone unseen is reading, or the soft thud of books being set back onto shelves. Footsteps echo through the aisles, deliberate and measured, suggesting careful movement around fragile collections. Some report hearing faint murmurs, like the low voices of librarians discussing acquisitions, cataloging, or the arrangement of materials. Occasionally, the subtle sliding of drawers, the creak of a ladder, or the whisper of papers shifting adds to the eerie auditory landscape. Recordings made inside the warehouse sometimes capture these overlapping sounds, creating a layered symphony that mirrors the routines of staff long gone. Shadowy figures are often glimpsed in the periphery of vision. Some visitors describe librarians bending over stacks of books, adjusting them with delicate precision, or examining manuscripts with an unseen eye. Others report seeing fleeting silhouettes gliding between aisles, pausing as if to check a catalog or mark an item for preservation. These figures rarely acknowledge intruders, appearing absorbed in their work, repeating the meticulous tasks they performed in life. Many believe these spirits are bound to the warehouse by their devotion to knowledge, compelled to continue organizing and protecting the city's literary heritage beyond death. The architecture of the warehouse amplifies the haunting. High ceilings and long aisles create natural echoes, carrying even the faintest movement to distant corners. Broken windows and vents allow air to sweep through, sometimes producing sounds that resemble whispers or the soft shifting of materials. Light filtering through cracks often casts fleeting shapes, making shelves appear to move or objects to shift. Storms intensify the experience. Rain strikes the roof, wind whistles through gaps, and every creak of the building blends seamlessly with phantom footsteps, rustling papers, and distant murmurs. Visitors often describe the sensation of existing between two eras, physically present in an abandoned space while surrounded by the energy of librarians at work decades earlier. Temperature variations add to the eerie sensation of presence. Some areas feel unexpectedly cold, particularly near stacks of rare books or under lofted storage platforms, while other areas retain warmth from trapped sunlight or structural materials. Explorers occasionally report subtle touches, the light movement of objects, or the impression of being guided through the aisles. These fleeting interactions reinforce the idea that the warehouse is not empty and that the spirits of librarians remain, maintaining order and vigilance over the collections they once tended. The history of the Detroit Public Library warehouse explains much of its haunting. For decades, it was essential for the cataloging, preservation, and storage of books, manuscripts, and archival materials that formed the backbone of the city's educational resources. Staff spent long hours ensuring the integrity and accessibility of each item, often under strict conditions to protect delicate materials. The focus, care, and diligence inherent in this work left a lasting imprint on the building. Many believe this energy persists, manifesting as auditory, visual, and tactile phenomena experienced by modern visitors. In this sense, the warehouse is more than storage. It is a repository of knowledge, dedication, and devotion. Even in daylight, the space can feel disorienting. Dust drifts in ways that suggest movement. Shadows twist across shelving and crates, and faint sounds carry farther than seems possible, and preserving materials that exist in a state frozen between past and present. The warehouse seems suspended in time, where the act of safeguarding knowledge never ceases. Layered atop the physical decay of the present. Despite abandonment, the Detroit Public Library warehouse continues to attract urban explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio equipment frequently capture unexplained phenomena, footsteps, rustling papers, whispers, and shadowy figures moving among shelves and crates. Even those who leave without tangible proof often describe a profound sense of presence. The impression that the spirits of librarians continue their work, ensuring that the pursuit of knowledge and preservation of history remains alive within the building. The Detroit Public Library warehouse remains one of the city's most compelling haunted sites. Its aisles echo with footsteps, the soft rustle of pages, and the distant murmur of unseen voices. Shadowy figures move among shelves and crates, performing tasks that never truly end. For those who venture inside, the experience is immersive and unforgettable. A journey into a space where knowledge lingers, where devotion and care persist beyond the living world, and where the spirits of Detroit's librarians continue their work, refusing to fade into silence. The Detroit Historical Society warehouse stands as a silent testament to the city's past, a place that once held the treasures and artifacts chronicling Detroit's rich and turbulent history. In its operational years, the warehouse was a hub of careful preservation and cataloging where curators and archivists moved deliberately through towering shelves and stacked crates, ensuring that each artifact was protected, documented, and ready to tell its story to future generations. The air was heavy with the scent of aged paper, polished wood, and the faint temps of metals preserved for posterity. Today, the building sits largely abandoned, yet many who venture inside insist that it is far from empty. Footsteps echo through its vast corridors, papers rustle on their own, and distant murmurs suggest that the spirits of historians still wander, continuing to curate exhibits and preserve the past. From the moment one steps inside, the atmosphere is charged with memory and purpose. Light filters through broken windows, scattering across rows of shelving, covered crates, and long-forgotten objects. Dust hangs thick in the air, drifting in slow, hypnotic patterns, often giving the impression of movement in the corners of the eyes. Many who enter report an uncanny sense of being observed, as if the building itself remembers the careful hands that once tended to its treasures. Shadows stretch across walls and floors, sometimes appearing to shift with intent, reinforcing the impression that the warehouse is alive with unseen energy. Sound is perhaps the most compelling indication of the warehouse's lingering presence. Visitors frequently hear the soft rustle of papers and the subtle sliding of drawers or crates, as if curators are organizing artifacts unseen. Footsteps echo across the concrete floors, measured and deliberate, moving with the caution of someone handling fragile history. Indistinct voices often rise from empty corners, murmuring the names of objects, discussing provenance, or debating the proper care of a delicate item. Some report the faint clatter of metal or wood, as though display cases are being opened and closed, or a box of artifacts is being carefully examined. Audio recordings made in the warehouse often capture layers of these ghostly sounds, producing an auditory tapestry that mirrors the work once carried out by dedicated historians. Shadowy figures are regularly glimpsed at the edges of perception. Some visitors describe silhouettes bending over tables, adjusting objects or making notes on invisible ledgers. Others report seeing figures moving quickly through aisles, pausing to inspect crates or documents, before vanishing into the shadows. These apparitions rarely acknowledge intruders, appearing absorbed in their tasks, repeating the meticulous actions of curators long gone. Many believe that the spirits are bound to the warehouse by their devotion to history, compelled to continue preserving, cataloging, and safeguarding Detroit's artifacts long after death. The architecture of the warehouse amplifies the haunting qualities. High ceilings and expansive shelving create natural echoes that carry the faintest noises far down empty aisles. Broken windows and vents allow air to whistle through, sometimes producing sounds that resemble soft whispers or the distant movement of objects. Light streaming through cracks often casts fleeting shapes across shelves and crates, making them appear to shift or sway. Storms intensify the experience, with rain striking the roof in staccato rhythms, wind gusting through gaps, and every creak of the structure blending seamlessly with phantom footsteps, rustling papers, and low murmurs. Visitors often describe the sensation of stepping between two worlds, physically present in the abandoned warehouse while surrounded by the energy of historians at work decades earlier. Temperature variations contribute to the sense of presence. Certain areas feel inexplicably cold, especially near stacks of archival materials or underlofted storage platforms, while other sections retain warmth from sunlight or trapped air. Visitors occasionally report subtle touches or the impression of being guided through aisles. These fleeting interactions reinforce the notion that the warehouse is not empty, that the spirits of historians and curators continue their labor unseen, maintaining order and vigilance over the city's artifacts. The history of the Detroit Historical Society warehouse provides context for its haunting. For decades, it served as a critical hub for the preservation, cataloging, and storage of artifacts that documented the city's evolution. Staff spent long hours cataloging objects, restoring delicate pieces, and preparing items for exhibition. The intensity and care inherent in this work left an indelible mark on the building. Many believe that the energy of those devoted to history persists, manifesting as auditory, visual, and tactile phenomena experienced by modern visitors. In this sense, the warehouse is more than storage. It is a repository of memory, devotion, and the preservation of Detroit's legacy. Even in daylight, the warehouse can feel disorienting. Dust drifts in ways that suggest movement, shadows twist across crates and shelving, and faint sounds carry farther than seems possible. Visitors often describe stepping into a living archive, witnessing unseen curators handling artifacts, cataloging collections, and maintaining exhibits that exist in a state suspended between past and present. The building seems frozen in time, where the act of preserving history continues uninterrupted, layered atop the decay of the present. Despite its abandonment, the Detroit Historical Society warehouse continues to draw urban explorers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio devices frequently capture unexplained phenomena. Footsteps, rustling papers, whispers, and shadowy figures moving among shelves and crates. Even those who leave without tangible proof often describe a profound sense of presence, the impression that the spirits of curators and historians continue their work, ensuring that Detroit's history remains alive and attended to. The Detroit Historical Society warehouse remains one of the city's most evocative, haunted locations. Its aisles echo with footsteps, the rustle of papers, and the soft murmur of unseen voices. Shadowy figures move among shelves and crates, performing tasks that never truly end. For those who venture inside, the experience is immersive and unforgettable. A journey into a space where history is not merely remembered, but actively curated by the spirits of those who dedicated their lives to preserving it, ensuring that Detroit's past continues to live on in the present. The Detroit Institute of Art's warehouse stands as a quiet sentinel to the city's artistic legacy, a building that once held countless works of art, from paintings and sculptures to rare sketches and delicate installations. In its operational years, the warehouse was filled with the hum of careful activity, curators, art handlers, and conservators moving meticulously between rows of shelves, crates, and display cases, ensuring each piece was protected, cataloged, and ready for exhibition. The air was heavy with the scent of aged canvas, varnish, and wood, a mixture that spoke of creativity, preserved and respected. Today, the building is largely abandoned, yet those who enter report that it is far from empty. Footsteps echo across empty aisles. The rustle of canvas is heard where no one stands, and distant murmurs suggest that the spirits of artists and curators continue their work unseen. From the moment one steps inside, the atmosphere is charged with history and presence. Dust filters sunlight streaming through broken or grimy windows, casting fractured beams across shelves, crates, and draped sculptures. Shadows stretch across floors and walls, sometimes appearing to shift or move with intention. Many visitors report a sense of being observed, though no living presence is near. The warehouse seems to hold a memory of those who once devoted their lives to art, absorbing the focus, care, and devotion that permeated every inch of its corridors. Sound is the most tangible way the past manifests in the warehouse. Visitors often hear the soft rustle of canvas, as if someone is unrolling or examining a painting. Footsteps echo with deliberate cadence, moving with the caution required when handling priceless artifacts. Faint murmurs can be heard, like curators discussing restoration, provenance, or the placement of pieces in a future exhibition. Occasionally, there are soft creaks of floorboards, or the subtle shifting of crates, all blending into a haunting symphony of artistic labor. Audio recordings, made inside the warehouse, sometimes capture layered sounds of footsteps, rustling materials, and whispered voices, creating an eerie auditory tapestry that mirrors the careful routines of curators and conservators long gone. Shadowy figures are frequently glimpsed at the edges of perception. Some visitors describe silhouettes, bending over easels or draped works, making adjustments or moving unseen objects with precise care. Others see fleeting shapes moving among shelves, pausing as if to observe a sculpture or inspect a painting before disappearing into the shadows. These figures rarely acknowledge the living. They appear entirely absorbed in their tasks, repeating the careful gestures of artists and curators who once maintained the warehouse. Many believe that these spirits are bound by devotion, compelled to continue tending to the works of art even beyond death. The architecture of the warehouse enhances the haunting. High ceilings, long corridors, and expansive shelving create natural echoes that carry even the smallest sound across vast distances. Broken windows and vents allow drafts that sometimes resemble whispers or the shifting of objects. Light streaming through gaps in the walls or roof often produces fleeting shapes across shelves, crates, or draped sculptures, giving the impression of movement. Storms intensify the experience, rain striking the roof, wind gusting through openings, and every creak of the aging structure blends seamlessly with phantom footsteps, rustling canvas, and distant murmurs. Visitors often describe the sensation of existing between two eras, physically present in an abandoned space while surrounded by the energy of artists at work decades earlier. Temperature variations contribute to the eerie sensation of presence. Certain areas feel inexplicably cold, especially near stacks of paintings, delicate sketches, or sculptures, while other sections retain residual warmth from sunlight or trapped air. Visitors occasionally report subtle touches or the impression of being guided along aisles. These fleeting interactions reinforce the sense that the warehouse is not empty, that the spirits of artists and curators remain, ensuring the care and preservation of the collection continues unseen. The history of the Detroit Institute of Art's warehouse explains much of its spectral activity. For decades, it served as a vital hub for storing, maintaining, and preparing art for public exhibition. Staff spent long hours cataloging works, restoring damaged pieces, and carefully transporting items for display. The intensity, precision, and creativity required for this work left an indelible imprint on the building. Many believe that this energy persists, manifesting as auditory, visual, and tactile phenomena experienced by modern visitors. In this sense, the warehouse is more than storage. It is a living archive of artistic devotion and preservation. Even in daylight, the warehouse can feel disorienting. Dust drifts in patterns that suggest motion, shadows stretch across shelves and crates, and faint sounds travel farther than seems possible. Visitors often describe stepping into a living gallery, witnessing unseen curators and artists at work, adjusting artworks, inspecting pieces, and performing maintenance that seems suspended in time. The building exists in a liminal state, where the act of caring for art never ceases. Layered atop the physical decay of the present, despite abandonment, the Detroit Institute of Art's warehouse continues to draw urban explorers, artists, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Cameras and audio equipment frequently capture unexplained phenomena. Footsteps, rustling canvas, whispered voices, and shadowy figures moving among crates and shelves. Even those who leave without tangible proof often describe a profound sense of presence. The feeling that the spirits of artists and curators continue their work, ensuring the collection remains alive and respected. The Detroit Institute of Art's warehouse remains one of the city's most haunting locations. Its aisles echo with footsteps, the soft rustle of canvas, and distant murmurs. Shadowy figures move among crates and shelves, performing tasks that never end. For those who venture inside, the experience is immersive and unforgettable. A journey into a space where art meets the supernatural, where dedication and creativity persist beyond the living world, and where the spirits of Detroit's artists continue their work, refusing to fade into silence. Thank you for joining us on this haunting journey through Detroit's most haunted warehouses. If you enjoyed these tales and wish to hear more stories from the shadows, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon for notifications. Until next time, keep your lights dim and your senses sharp. Who knows what lurks just beyond the edge of the known world?